be back after an Independence Day weekend. But yeah, there's a lot to celebrate about the big, beautiful bill. First and foremost, and what I kept reminding your listeners and myself, first and foremost, this was about the question of whether we would continue President Trump era tax policies, after the 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act cut taxes for every American, or whether we would let taxes go up by $4 trillion. So a lot of the attention that some are paying on, including me, to the idea that this bill will see deficits and debt go up has to do with just the fact that every year we spend $7 trillion but take in $5 trillion. The question was whether we wanted to try to remedy that by raising taxes dramatically on the American people. I did not want to do that. And that's why ultimately, I always believed that I would end up as a yes on this bill. The bill did a lot of other good things that were compromised by the Senate and the Senate parliamentarian. John Thune and the senators allowed this Democrat parliamentarian appointed by Harry Reid to run roughshod over the bill. For instance, the defunding of Planned Parenthood was cut from 10 years down to 1 year. The defunding of transgender surgeries and treatments was cut down, was eliminated entirely. As some of us saw it, some of the teeth preventing illegal aliens from being given Medicaid by the states were undercut. The unconstitutional regulation and taxation of suppressors and short-barreled firearms, that was reduced to just the tax going away, but the regulation and the registration would continue. So some of us held out because some of us felt that the bill could be much more fiscally conservative. The Senate bill spent $565 billion more than the House bill. So we pressed for a number of reforms, and we worked with the administration until late in the night. And I think we are going to be able, the administration will be able, by executive action, to prevent illegals from getting Medicaid and prevent illegals from getting food stamps and do some things in these other areas as well. So ultimately, that is what got my yes vote.
Okay, so let me follow up on that. I mean, you just mentioned, a bunch of the stuff that's really frustrating and some of the stuff that's really bad, including, the increase in the debt ceiling, which is going to add to our national debt as well. Yep. So are we stuck with these bad parts? Do we just have to eat it? Or is there still anything we can do to try to address those in a separate secondary fight on this? Because that's where I mentioned earlier, I think you and I talked about it both on the air and off. It's like, I'm not going to be mad at anybody for voting for it. I'm not going to be mad at anybody for voting against it. I just thought we could do better.
Well, I thought we could do better too. You've got to remember, early in session, the powers that be were talking about $300 billion over 10 years of mandatory spending cuts. The Senate was talking about $6 billion. At the end of the day, this bill saved $1.6 $1 trillion, exponentially more money. And a lot of that would not have happened without fiscal conservatives like myself fighting this fight all the way to the finish line. Is it enough? When we have a $37 trillion debt, no, it's not enough. Our problem is we have too few. We even had Republicans, as you know, railing against the idea of, cutting a penny out of Medicaid. And there are no cuts to Medicaid here. The Medicaid will still grow every year over the next 10. But some of the real scams that the states use to draw down more federal money and put us further in debt, some of those are tightened up. I hate to say it, not completely eliminated, but tightened up in this bill.
We're visiting with Congressman Bob Onder, and I don't mean to get too wonky and technical on the process here, but typically when the House and the Senate have different versions of the same bill, there's some sort of conference where they work it out and then both agree to the same package. You all were just told to vote on the Senate's lock, stock, and barrel, and you weren't permitted to do any alterations or to correct the things that the parliamentarian did or the John Thune did or anything like that. That's not the normal process. Why rush it? Why not just say, we're not going to do this by the 4th. Let's do it right, and let's go to a conference and try to negotiate some of these things back in the right direction?
Well, the words you just said, Mike, were almost verbatim the words I was saying over last week. It's more important to do this right than to do it quickly. That the July 4th ARB deadline was aspirational, and it did not have the force of law. It's a long time before, a good month before we need to address the debt ceiling and so on. I was disappointed that, and that's really what I think a lot of us were fighting for, certainly what I was fighting for on Wednesday night, the idea that we should just take a flawed Senate product. Look, there's a House position, there's a Senate position, let's get it as close to the House position as we can. But others felt that given the slim margin in the presence of some pretty bad rhinos over in the Senate, that the product was that we were looking at Wednesday night was the best we were going to do. And that's why I and other fiscal conservatives worked with the administration then. And I think in some cases, for instance, the Senate's undermining of enforcement against illegals receiving Medicaid, there are things they'll be able to do administratively to remedy that. Far better to put that permanently in statute so the next, heaven forbid, Democrat president can't undo all the good President Trump is doing right now. But at the end of the day, we were not offered the choice of going back and getting a better product out of the Senate.
Is there a possibility of more rescission bills to actually cut spending, or even another reconciliation bill on some of these messy gray areas at this point?
Yeah. Speaker Johnson is talking about 2 more reconciliation bills, one in the fall, one in the spring. I'm not sure exactly what the subject matter of those would be. I have a lot of good ideas, but I don't know what he has in mind. We absolutely should do more rescission bills. It's disappointing that over in the Senate, the rescission bill that we passed out of the House a couple of weeks ago, we're not even sure that's going to pass. That's only $9.3 billion, and it cuts wasteful foreign aid money, and it cuts money for NPR and PBS. I thought those were both things that Republicans could agree on, but apparently some of the senators, they must like some of the Republican senators must like the leftist reporting at NPR, and they must like funneling our money overseas to woke leftist programs. So, one of the most discouraging things about DC is how little appetite there is to cut spending at a time when we're heading right over a fiscal cliff.
Yeah. All right. Last question, because I'm just a little bit over time. Elon Musk says he's going to start the America Party. He's done the FCC paperwork. I've known you a long time, so I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that you're not ready to change your party registration to an Elon Musk party.
Yeah, I think that's true. That's true. Look, I admire that guy greatly. It's really hard to see what the central message of that new party would be. Of course, the newly formed Republican Party, when Abraham Lincoln took it up, it was about slavery. It was about the Union. Elon Musk, it seems to be cutting spending. We can't get anyone to cut spending, it seems. I don't know how far he'll go with that. I hope Elon stays engaged in politics, but a third party could be disastrous, just like it was with Ross Perot.
Okay, a little bit later on today, let's do this right around 6:35. Sean Higgins from the Competitive Enterprise Institute going to be with us. I don't know if you saw his article in National Review, but he's asking the question I think that a lot of conservatives are asking: what the heck is going on with Josh Hawley? Remember when he used to be a fiscal conservative and not basically a pseudo lackey for the left-wing labor unions? But at this point, you can hardly tell the difference when it comes to unions and when it comes to minimum wage. You can't really tell the difference between Josh Hawley and Bernie Sanders anymore. What is going on with that? And is this something that could backfire on Hawley and on the Republicans? We're going to have that conversation right here on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL at 6:35.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL. Enable our Alexa skill.
Hello.
Hey, Alexa.
Yes, I'm listening.
Play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Tony Colombo here for the Farmers Co-op Old Town Country Store in Old Town St. Peters, where they have a huge selection of products and services for your yard and home, including a full line of lawn and garden products, a full line of products for animal care, and that includes anything from livestock to the family dog or cat. They'll fill any size propane tank for about half the price of a new one, and so much more. Visit them in St. Peters on 2nd Street, right behind the QT at 70 and Mid-Rivers Mall Drive, and check out all their products and services at oldtowncountrystore.com.
Hey folks, Jamie Allman here. Exciting things are happening at the Hideout in High Ridge. Famous for the Sunset Patio, 4 big screen TVs, live music and events, and of course, the wings. The Hideout now has a brand new menu featuring handcrafted burgers and new items like their signature sunset dip and Dave's Chili. And now a second location, the Hideout at Sugar Creek Golf Course in High Ridge, featuring great event space. You can stop by for lunch or dinner. The new 2025 Hideout and the new Hideout at Sugar Creek Golf Course. We'll see you there.
Dude, this house is perfect. Crumbs everywhere, sticky counters. I've already texted the colonies.
Sweet, I'll bring my 500 cousins. This'll be the biggest ant rager of the summer.
Let's party! Wait, oh, what's that sound? Oh, no, it's those trucks with the green wheels. Party's over, man. Party's over.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. We'd love to help you out. Give us a call today at 636-486-7888 to learn more about our special $67 offer.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right. As much as it seems a lot of people just want this story to go away, the recent turn in the Epstein case has many on our side really angry. I mean, the reaction that I am seeing in not just broadcast media, but social media, this has been remarkable. And I wonder if basically the leaders on the right now, and I'm talking right up to the top, if they are taking note and need to reevaluate where they're at. It's going to be fascinating and telling and important to see if that's what happens.
And it's much justified, to be completely honest. I
agree.
Now, St. Louis begins the process of saying goodbye to a first responder today. We've got the details in the news dump at 6:04.
All right. It is 5:47 right now. Okay. So, obviously yesterday, the biggest news that we had was there was that report from Axios that said the Department of Justice has closed the investigation into the Jeffrey Epstein case. And they found, the common term is no client list. But what they're saying is, well, there just weren't any buyers. We investigated, there's no client list, despite Pam Bondi saying there was.
Yep.
Despite that being a big part of the campaign, is we're going to expose that list and put that out there. So, do I think that there was a, Saturday savings enrollment plan, a punch card plan? No, that's not. But the fact that after those thousands of pages and all of these things of documents that the Trump administration says, well, we're vetting him, all of a sudden, nothing here. Nothing here whatsoever. We'd have nothing. There's no clients, nothing. Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for 20 years, convicted of sex trafficking, but apparently she trafficked them to nobody.
Yeah, ignore the black book, which was actually a point of contention when somebody actually tried to sell it. Ignore the flight logs. Ignore the fact that the criminal case itself, the actual filing, stated that employee 1, employee 2, employee 3 helped out, and that there were both known and unknown conspirators that assisted in all this and benefited from this. Yeah, that's all just nothing to see.
But here's the thing: is when I saw those headlines going into Monday's show, and I thought, well, crap, I've got to talk about it. I mean, this is what's happening right now. I'm going to get my butt kicked again because you don't challenge the administration on conservative talk radio. No, that's not what's happening. The on the right, very few people are trying to stand up and defend the Trump administration on this. Now, I'm not saying that they're bailing on Donald Trump or anything, but I think the widespread reaction so far, at least from what I've seen, has been, this ain't right. What's going on? And I'm kind of heartened to see people not following along with talking points that are being handed down from on top just because it's coming from, quote unquote, our side. The reaction has been surprising to me a little bit with the intensity. And we're talking people with very large social media followings. We're talking about very large broadcast media commentary and news product. We're talking about people who are very loyal to the right, whether it's conservative or MAGA or whatever, who are saying, no, this doesn't feel or smell right. This just doesn't seem right. And we're questioning, and we should be questioning.
Yes, absolutely. And that's, on the one hand, it's very nice to know, because our side, again, is very much about the protection of youth, the protection of the unborn, pro-life. So it's fantastic the way that we're all unanimously saying we're not that dumb. We're not just going to go with that because it's okay. However, there are still people that I am seeing that are saying, well, it's really not big a deal. They still do well in other regards.
Right.
And it's like, it kind of is a big deal.
Right. Yeah. Because this goes to a very core integrity issue.
Yes.
Massive integrity issue. I have seen, and I think you and I saw some of the same tweets where people were saying, you know what, okay, this may be bad, but let's not forget all the good stuff that's being done. Oh, I have no argument with that. I don't, I can nuance things and take them case by case by case, but this is an integrity issue. And the reality is that it doesn't pass any sort of the smell test. I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat or Biden or Trump or anybody.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is, to say nothing here, move on. And I think that there are people on the right who are accustomed to saying, circle the wagons, folks, just do what we say.
We can't let the left have a win.
Right.
Yeah.
We can't get, and I think there are an encouragingly number of people who are saying, whoa. Well, I'm on your team, but you better come clean here. You better explain this, because I don't believe you. And as we'll get to in the news dump here, my lead story is the White House now officially doubling down and confirming that Axios report. The Axios report was right.
Yeah.
And the White House now confirms it.
So again, I always try to be the devil's advocate sometimes.
Yeah.
I would be 100% willing and able to just say, you know what, maybe there is no list of, they don't know who the people that were paying to go into the, Manhattan and, Palm Beach and to the island to do all this stuff is, and we're just never going to know that. Okay. I don't like it.
But I was going to say, I find it hard to believe, but you're trying to allow for the possibility.
Yeah. Like, so the issue though, is that we do know for a fact that there were vendors. So we may not have the clients, the buyers, but we know for a fact that the people that were investigating this case, because they referred to them that from here on out in this case, it'll be employee 1, employee 2, it'll be these associates, and they're not referring to, unfortunately,
we're talking about people who are supplying the
not the victims that were recruiting other victims,
supplying them.
Yes. And they have to have that information, because and that is what bothers me, is that they're saying case closed. We're not even going to give you that information when that information is extremely relevant to everything going on right now.
But it also doesn't pass any sort of smell test to say, well, we've got all this information up to the people who actually made the purchase of human beings for sexual perversion.
Yeah.
That just, I don't believe it.
No.
I don't buy it. I don't think anybody who's got more than 3 or 4 brain cells to rub together believes that, but we're being told now, including by the White House, just accept what we're saying and just move on. And I'm glad there are people who are saying, not on this. No, You want us to just, toe the party line on, issues A, B, C, D. You want, there's a lot of people who used to be fiscally conservative who are now like, you know what? Donald Trump says tariffs are okay. So, okay. I disagree. People yell at me. They get mad at me. There are people who say, I don't want big government unless RFK tells me what I can and can't buy to eat. And I don't like that. And like, you just don't like, okay. There are good faith disagreements on all of those things. I understand the positions. I don't understand a good faith position to say, well, I guess they don't have the information and there is no client list. Nobody actually bought these people, even though others were convicted of selling them.
Nobody bought or sold.
Right.
And again, so major stain, in my opinion, on the credibility. And I'm one of those people that was very defensive in favor of the tariffs. So that was one of the things that we sort of disagreed on.
Sure.
And,
yeah.
But
I understand that argument. I think you can disagree with me in very good faith on
absolutely.
That. Yeah.
But there's no disagreeing that people that were abusing and trafficking minors across the country in multiple areas in the country that all have connections to each other is not a big deal. And that, well, essentially, if this is where the direction we're going to go, why is Ghislaine Maxwell still in prison?
If there are no clients, why is she in jail? And I think everybody agrees she should be.
Oh, absolutely.
So, but logically speaking, if there were no buyers, then there was no trafficking. Period. Yeah. All right. We're going to get into that just a little bit more here at the news dump in just a couple of minutes. There's not a whole lot that's new to say about that. I just found the reaction very interesting, surprising, and I think a little bit encouraging. I'm not trying to take away from other policy successes, but I'm saying this is a big deal and this is an integrity issue.
Yeah. And I know that the internet is not the end all be all, the internet's not real, but there are diehard MAGA Trump accounts that have, no matter what has happened, they always find a way to to twist it into positive, and they have, large million-plus follower influence. And even they're saying, look, we're not going to accept this. So I really, in some ways, it's a very bleak moment. But on the other hand, it's nice to know that as a society, the majority of us are still saying we're not going to.
No, yeah,
we're not getting bait and switch like that.
You're not going to do my thinking like this, at least not anymore on this. Okay, real quick, I just want to put something on your political radar. Remember last week we were talking about there was one of those early polls of the Democratic possible presidential candidates. And there was one for the Republicans too, but we really brought that up and I put it in the news dump just to kind of poke fun at JB Puszkar because he was so far down. There's now a couple of stories and I want to put this guy on your radar. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear.
Oh,
okay. Most people have not heard of him outside of the Mid-South. He is a Democratic governor of a very red state of Kentucky. I am telling you right now, this guy is electable.
Interesting.
He is like I said, a Democratic governor of a red state. He's on the left, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't come across as the insane leftist because otherwise he wouldn't get elected in Kentucky.
Especially in Kentucky.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's now making a few visits and he's caught the attention of Newsmax and The Hill and right and left. They're like, this guy's making some moves. So, do I think he's a front runner? No, but I am saying that, keep your eye on him just casually at this point, because in 8, 9, 10 months, we may be including that name in the conversations because he could end up being the alternative to the Gavin Newsoms and JB Pritzkers and Kathy Hochul's, because the Democrats are going to say, wait a minute, if we're going to win, we can't have all these insane Marxists. Hey, look, here's an old Bill Clinton and Harry Truman style of old-fashioned Democrat. Watch and keep your eye on Andy Beshear as this presidential race starts to unfold. I am telling you, he could win.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C. And don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now open Napoli Kirkwood.
What I like best about my CASA volunteer is that he listens to me and knows me.
My CASA volunteer helped me get visits with my Nana.
Other kids should definitely have a CASA volunteer so that their voices will also be heard.
Thousands of children in foster care do not have court-appointed special advocates. All it takes is a couple hours a week to make an impact. Learn how you can help at mocasa.org. We're serious about volunteering. Are you? Paid for by the Missouri CASA Association.
Basement with a Y. That's Basement E.
It's Basement T.
Basement E?
It's Basement T.
Oh, Basement T. Basement T. I get it. That's the basement waterproofing and foundation repair experts at Woods Basement Systems.
Right. The all things Basement T experts at Woods Basement Systems will provide you a free estimate and dry up that wet basement and fix that cracked foundation. Call 800-388-9326 or go online to woodsbasementsystems.com.
That's woodsbasementsystems.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour at townhall.com. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's nominating President Trump for Nobel Peace Prize. The two took a victory lap last night at the White House after the recent joint strikes at Iran's nuclear facilities. Former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Michael Oren, says now's the main goal is peace in Gaza.
They want a deal so that we can stop the fighting there and we can get down to the business of making peace with the Saudis. And if you make peace with the Saudis, you can make peace with Indonesians, you can make peace with the Pakistanis, you can make a peace with a lot of Sunni states. So everything hinges on that.
Dr. Michael Oren was interviewed by the Salem Radio Network. President Trump has not forgotten about tariffs.
Donald Trump is ratcheting up the pressure on America's trading partners. In letters to the heads of several countries, the U.S. president informed them of their new tariff rates, 25% for South Korea, Japan and Malaysia, 30% on imports from South Africa, and 40% duties on goods from Laos and Myanmar. The new rates will begin on August 1st. All of the reciprocal tariffs were also pushed back to that date, potentially giving countries more time to negotiate deals.
That's BBC's Michelle Fleury reporting. The death toll from catastrophic flooding in Texas over the 4th of July weekend has now surpassed 100. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem traveled to Texas over the weekend, and the entire Trump administration is working hand in glove with state and local officials to provide every assistance available.
And officials say the searchers in hard-hit Kerr County found the bodies of 84 people, including 28 children. Amazon's annual Prime Day sales are here again. The e-commerce giant is making the now misnamed Prime Day a 4-day event for the first time. The company launched that back in 2015. More from townhall.com.
Healthcare is complicated. It doesn't have to be. If you don't love how your health insurance works, maybe it's time to leave traditional health insurance behind. Take charge of your healthcare with Christian Healthcare Ministries. CHM offers you flexibility. Enroll anytime, choose your own provider, and select the program that fits your needs and budget. CHM is the original faith-based way of taking care of your medical bill costs. Learn more at chministries.org/wellness.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aid.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Tuesday's a First Alert weather day. Chance for some strong storms in the afternoon to evening. We'll wake up in the morning to dry weather, about 73 degrees and very humid. But between noon and about 9 p.m., let's watch for some storms that can produce isolated damaging wind, maybe some spots of flooding too. High of 89 degrees, and watch for those strong storms afternoon to evening. Then Wednesday, a 30% chance for a spot storm or two in the afternoon to early evening. Otherwise, a high of 88 and still rather humid. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com. Or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Thank you for the opportunity to let me vent here.
Live and local.
Way to be, guys. 1019 all the way.
This is News Talk STL.
I am home.
Mike Ferguson.
We the people.
Gabe Phifer.
It's not rocket science. Rocket science.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, do I do it? Do I start off by saying something that that is not going to sit well with a lot of people? Do I do it? Do I just go for it? Just go for it?
Let's go.
All right. Because when I do the news stuff, I'm sure people have figured out I do I write, the teases that we do, and then we play the thing, and then I do the stories here. So
right. Embrace the dark side.
That's right. So here's the thing. And Gabe's, since you were out yesterday, this was obviously the big story.
Yeah.
If you believe it is a cover up, okay, if you believe that this is a cover up, then add the current administration to those who are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if that's what if you say this is a cover up, I don't know if there's another logical conclusion. Also, as Jerome said a little bit earlier, St. Louis says goodbye to a first responder this week. And the violent left is stepping up their war against law enforcement, targeting more federal officers. It is 6:06. Let's go and dump some news on you here.
The Morning News Dump, brought to you by Common Sense Rentals. The Morning News Dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks. The Morning News Dump.
Okay, so the White House officially doubles down on the story. The Justice Department releasing a memo concluding that Jeffrey Epstein, in their claims, did not have any clients.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no list.
There's no list. There are no clients. They also say he did commit suicide in 2019. We can argue those things separately. I'm not as hung up on that part. No pun intended.
Same.
Now that obviously conflicts with obviously the theories surrounding the disgraced financier, and also I would argue conflicts with the conviction of Ghislaine Maxwell as well. So speaking to reporters, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt praised the memo and the Trump administration's commitment to what she calls government transparency in all of this.
They put out a memo in conclusion of that review. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate for public consumption. But they committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did, and they provided the results of that.
Is anybody buying this?
I'm not.
Is anybody buying this?
Well, doesn't it run counter to what we heard prior, right?
Yeah.
When the administration first came in, there were officials who were in the Justice Department and love. I'm trying to remember. I don't think it was Leavitt. Pam Bondi
literally said she had the list on. She
had the list
on her desk.
Yes, and she knew what we would what we would take to mean the list. Like she said, the list.
Right.
Well, that's what we were looking for. You said you had it on your desk and you said you were ready. You were just revealing some final things. I thought you're going to put a nice bow on it for America. That's kind of the way that it was being communicated to us, but that never happened.
No, and just to further emphasize the point too, the official .gov, the justice system, when they were placing the charges and they were making the case against Jeffrey Epstein, there are three people: employee number one, employee number two, employee number three, and then what's quoted as known and unknown conspirators into this. So if there's no clients as in buyers, for sure there are at least vendors.
Right. Well, but the idea that Maxwell, like I said a little bit earlier, she was convicted of sex trafficking, sentenced to 20 years in jail, but now you're saying that nobody was there to buy them?
Yeah.
Then who'd she traffic them to? I mean, this is now what if Stell were still here, he would call it the uniparty.
Yes, this is absolutely uniparty stuff.
Right. This is, so what you've got is there's in my guess, because I got to be careful to say in my guesstimate here, is that there are really, really high up influential people up the line, probably to the point where they're so high up that party affiliation doesn't matter, who are being protected by the entire system. So, you know, what's interesting is that how many people on the right are saying what we're saying, going, wait a minute, we love you, Trump administration. I'm not saying that, but you know, a lot of people are saying we love you, Trump administration, but this just smells to high heaven of BS.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and look, there's a couple ways you could look at it. One being that there are so many people and they span the gamut of all political affiliations, important people. There are probably some foreign dignitaries on there as well. Right. So there are a lot of people, there are a lot of relationships that are at stake because of the release, you know, if they were to release those names. So they've opted for the mutually assured destruction means we're not gonna open fire ever. And then the other possibility is that it's more valuable to maintain this thing over certain people. But I don't know.
We looked into it. Trust us. There's just nothing there.
I don't trust
what?
You. I don't.
No, exactly. All right. Okay. The media likes to call them surgical abortions. Reality calls it the killing of a human life. Either way, they've resumed in Missouri after that Jackson County court ruling that essentially ended all health and safety regulations and restrictions on abortion. As of Monday, though, no abortion providers had submitted their required plans to administer chemical abortions. All of the butcheries are in the process of getting that submitted. Search and rescue teams continue to look for victims of that flash flooding in parts of Texas. We now know that the number of people killed by that flash flood is now over 100. Kelly Raybon is a mother of some children who were at that camp. She was on Fox News channel's Fox News at Night, talking about how one of her sons was at Camp La Junta, less than 6 miles away from Camp Mystic, and was stuck in his cabin when it flooded. It wasn't just Camp Mystic.
He ended up in the rafters of his bunk. And this is a kid who just graduated kindergarten. So it's terrifying.
Camp Mystic has reported 27 children and counselors have died from those floods, although there are many others who are still missing.
Yeah, and if you caught any of it on social media, there are a lot of people making political hay about certain things.
We're getting into that in just a little bit.
So disgusting. I don't know why I'm still surprised at it, but the lack of humanity is just shocking.
We're going to put that on spotlight display here in just a little bit well. Visitation services for a fallen St. Louis City firefighter take place this afternoon. Lee Krause died July 1st after suffering a medical emergency while on duty a few days before. Visitation happens from 3 o'clock to 8 p.m. at the Hoffmeister Colonial Mortuary. The memorial service is planned for tomorrow morning at the same location. Firefighter Krause was only 52 years old. By the way, you're going to see flags around St. Louis in the city in particular at half staff. That's why, in honor of him. Government now investigating multiple recent attacks on federal agents involved in immigration enforcement, including one at a Border Patrol facility in McAllen, Texas, including one officer who was shot by terrorists. U.S. Border Patrol Chief Mike Banks blaming anti-ICE rhetoric, and he was on Fox's America Reports saying how this can be toned down.
We've got to continue our messaging, right? But then we've also got to hold those that are encouraging violence against law enforcement or inciting violence. We've got to hold them accountable and prosecute those individuals.
Okay, and we've also got comments from the White House on this as well. Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Stephen Miller had some very choice words on Fox's Jesse Waters Primetime.
There is an insurrectionist movement in the Democratic Party that is inspiring domestic terrorism against ICE.
What you had in that outside of that ICE detention facility in Texas that I just mentioned was basically a paramilitary leftist militia coordinated attack where they got the guns out and they shot at least one officer.
That's crazy.
In a barrage of guns. So this is now the level that the left has decided to step up their opposition to enforcing our borders and getting rid of illegal aliens is they are deciding that some of them are deciding they want to go to war. So leftist folks out there, normally I joke around and say, oh, our leftist friends, listen, leftist, you think you want to go to a shooting war with people on the right?
Yeah.
Who we betting on this?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's the 18th Street Gang responding to that, but one political official out of California who called for them to take armed resistance, basically, against them. We really do need to start prosecuting incitement, as a real thing, because it has been a real thing for a while now.
All right, let's see here. Cardinals are back at home, starting a series with the Nationals tonight. That's going to be a 6:45 first pitch. The Cardinals are in basically complete disarray right now. Just complete disarray. FanDuel is going to have that game. All right, just ahead here, Gabe just said it. As far as the political statements and the inhumanity, let's highlight the one who's making the headlines. I would say you're not going to believe what she had to say, but you probably will.
Destination, making cold mind to fight your war. Stop it right now. I have had enough of this. Turn my eyes.
Nate Lucas here for the Village Bar in the heart of Des Peres. Since 1948, the Village Bar has been the go-to destination for delicious food, cold drinks, and unbeatable atmosphere. Savor their famous wings, burgers, and onion rings, or grab a drink from their fully stocked bar. Catch all the big games and enjoy the company of their friendly staff. Plus, don't miss the 1879 Distillery, a one-of-a-kind experience right next door. The Village Bar offers the best value in town. Find the Village Bar on Facebook and come experience where history meets great times. You'll be glad you did.
All right, I'm talking to a very specific group of people right now. I'm talking about you hunters. I'm talking about you outdoorsmen and your outdoors women. You understand what I'm about to say. And that is, you can do it right, or you can try to do it cut rate. But when you're an outdoorsman, outdoors woman, you're a hunter, this isn't just a hobby. This isn't just something you do. This is part of your lifestyle. That's why you've got to connect with my friends at Whistle Pig Outdoors in Troy, whistlepigoutdoors.com. I am telling you, if you have not been to their store yet, you haven't been to the retail location, it is worth it. Go to Troy. People from literally 100, 150 miles away, go visit them in person. And I am telling you, they know their stuff. And what you're going to find there is you're going to find high quality that's going to last, that's going to perform, particularly if you are into bow hunting, whether it's a crossbow, whether it's regular archery hunting. They have on staff somebody right there who's going to customize your bow, be it traditional or crossbow, to your specific needs. You've got questions, he's got answers, whether you are just a beginner, whether you are a seasoned bow hunter. They are there for you. Also, they're an official Turtle Box audio dealer. These things are amazing. When you get to that sound and outdoors, you don't want to miss that. But you can go, do the Walmart and stuff and have something that's going to last you a day or two, or you can do it right. They're very proud of the fact that their name is on the line when they equip you to go hunting, whether it is waterfowl, whether it's deer, whether it's raccoons, whatever it is. They will get you set up and they're going to do it right. These are hunters and outdoorsmen serving hunters and outdoorsmen. And you know that there is a difference. I'm talking to you guys who make this part of your lifestyle. As I've said before, we're talking about, yes, honey, I want to marry you, but the wedding cannot happen during hunting season. So I'm not going to miss hunting season for an anniversary. We got to wait before or after to do that. I'm talking to you guys. That's who needs to visit Whistle Pig, whistlepigoutdoors.com. Look them up right now or go visit them in Troy. I am telling you, this is a really, really cool store. So just put Whistle Pig Outdoors in your GPS. It'll take you right to them. Check them out. Tell them that Mike was talking about them on the radio.
Looking for an underwater adventure or a scaly new friend? Dive into Tropical World Pets on Watson Road. For 32 years, this family-owned wonderland has been St. Louis's go-to destination for all things aquatic and reptilian. With over 7,000 square feet of aquariums, we're home to the area's largest selection of freshwater fish, including rare cichlids you won't find anywhere else. But that's not all. We've got tarantulas, snakes, and lizards galore. Tropical World Pets, 314-849-4020, or visit twpstl.com.
Hi, I'm Rodney Wallner.
And I'm Jen Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Jen, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission plan?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What's the best time to sell your home?
Right now, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Good morning, St. Louis. Hey, it's Vince from The Vince Show right here on News Talk STL every weeknight at 8. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Guys, we all know the cliches, right? Crises and tragedies bring out the best and the worst in people. I think that's being proven true again with the Texas flooding, just like it was with the tornadoes in North St. Louis, just like it was with the hurricanes that have hit different parts of the country over the last year. The devastating flooding in Texas is just the latest example. But how bad does the hateful part of leftist thinking, especially ideological, critical theory thinking, have to get to make somebody say, well, you know what? You're going to hear it in a moment.
Make sure you're listening throughout the week. We have a big announcement coming on Thursday at 8:05. We don't normally tease an announcement this early, but this one is really, really cool, and you'll absolutely want to be a part of it. That's Thursday at 8:05.
Okay, Gabe doesn't know actually what you just teased, do you?
I have no idea.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I'll tell you, but I'm going to say it quietly. Come here.
Okay. No way.
Yep.
Holy crap.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Well, there you go.
That actually was real.
That's
now.
really cool.
Nope, there it was. Yep. That actually happened.
All right. Yeah.
So,
oh, wow.
Thursday
Jeez.
at 8:05. That's
see,
we're making that.
That's what
announcement.
happens when you miss the meeting.
That's right.
Jeez. Wow.
All right. So here's a couple questions I've got, guys. How can somebody become so ideologically driven that they value their own hatred over the lives of children?
This was kind of shocking. I mean, like, look, we've seen these things from leftists, for years now. They somebody on the right dies that they really hate, and they're dancing and pissing on people's graves, and and I hope they're in hell. Kind of statements. They come out all over. Some event happens in a right-leaning area or a red state or a red neighborhood or things like that, and they say, well, they deserve that tornado because X, Y, and Z. We've
Which
seen,
are all things that have happened.
those are all things that I'm just not quite quoting, but basically quoting the sentiments that were being shared in these situations. But I wasn't, even knowing all that, even being, aware that that's a thing that happens on the left on a regular basis. This one actually shocked me.
Because that brings up the next question I've got is, how have we gotten to that point that you just described?
Yeah.
Where people feel so confident, so safe, and I'm talking about safe from any sort of social consequences, safe about this isn't going to do anything to me or my reputation, feel so safe to openly discount the lives of people because of unrelated differences.
Yeah.
And by the way, they lie about those people. So here's what happened. There's a woman who was appointed to a mayoral commission in Houston, and she decided to go on social media. I see SADE, and I think Sade, like the singer back in the 80s.
Yeah,
I think it's Sade.
Yeah,
I
Sade.
think Sade Perkins who was appointed to this commission, so a public figure. This is part of what she put on to social media, TikTok in particular. It's a long rant. I'm going to get through all of it, but I'm going to break it up into different pieces so we can react to it real quick.
I know I'm probably going to get canceled for this, but Camp Mystic is a whites-only girls Christian camp. They don't even have a token Asian. They don't have a token black person. It is a all white-only conservative Christian camp. If you ain't white, you ain't right, you ain't getting in, you ain't going, period. And I think that context needs to be said in this matter.
Okay, so I'm going to get to the next part of that. First of all, that's just factually false.
That's not a true statement.
That's not a true statement. And I don't know what she's most offended by in her world. I mean, if she actually thinks this is true, but let's and I couldn't imagine somebody who's educated actually thinking that. But I don't know whether she was most offended by white people, by conservative, or by Christian.
Right. Yeah. She listed those three things, kind of like a string of epithets, essentially.
Right.
That's how leftists say those words. It's just as a string of epithets.
Right. So here's the second part. I'm just going to pick it up where I paused here a second ago. Once again, Sade Perkins. I still want to say Sade, and I don't mean to throw shade on Sade, because what a amazing voice she had back in the day, but this is a different one. So I'm assuming Sade Perkins here.
It's not to say that we don't want the girls to be found, whatever girls that are missing or whatever right now, but you best believe, especially in today's political climate, if this were a group of Hispanic girls, especially with them being in East Texas, it should be most likely Hispanic. If this were a group of Hispanic girls out there, this would not be getting this type of coverage that they're getting. No one would give a fuck. And all these white people, the parents of these little girls, would be saying things like they need to be deported, they shouldn't have been here in the first place, and yada yada yada. So before y'all come at me, before y'all start leaving hate comments on my page about, oh, these are just kids and they don't know no better, the parents of these children who are choosing, and it is a choice in 2025, it is definitely a freaking choice to go into East goddamn Texas and to make a all-white enclave, exclusionary just for white people, with all the black people in East Texas, with all the Hispanic people in East Texas. Somehow, some way, you have carved out an all-white, whites-only enclave in East Texas for your white children. Yeah, I have a problem with that. I have a big problem with that.
Where is she getting this information? Like where is she purporting to have come to the conclusions that, because I've noticed this of leftists also. I mean, besides the the false allegations that they always throw out. It's like, okay, you see a group of white people, then they must therefore be the racist group, the most racist group in the world. Like you can see that. Beyond that, they also do this whole projection thing. Well, if the roles were reversed, it's like, no, we have evidence to the contrary.
Right. I mean, if this were, and you would think in East Texas, and by the way that church camps go, I mean, I don't know if this was specifically a church camp or if the church is rented, I don't know. But there were a number of church kids there, and many of them were killed. And we may find, more tragically. But here's the thing is, I mean, I grew up going to church camps in the Midwest. And for the most part, it's the Midwest and it's church camps, and they were mostly white.
Yeah.
You would think in Texas, yes, there's a lot of Hispanic people there. In East Texas, yes, there's a lot of people. You're talking Galveston and, Houston, I guess, is kind of on the eastern side or whatever. But, they're urban areas. They're very mixed race areas. A lot of black people there, a lot of Hispanic people there, but they come from wherever. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter. And to the point she's making, if we've got 100 little kids who are Hispanic who have been washed away in a flood, yes, we're reacting the same way.
Obviously. And we've seen it. We've seen those types of reactions by conservatives for anybody.
Yeah. How about the school shooting? Yeah. And what was that Texas school that was almost entirely Hispanic?
Oh, yeah. I can't remember the name of it.
But they fired the police. I mean, so yes, we've got a history of saying these are children, these are innocent. It doesn't matter.
Right. But they're too busy, hyping on their political cause du jour that they're wanting to promote.
But this is what happens when the critical theory takes hold.
Yes.
I mean, this is what happens, and this comes from the K through 12 education. This comes through the higher education, which, by the way, we're going to get into that a little bit later on, because there's a professor who's gone completely. But these are the people teaching your kids. And here's the last part of her rant, which, by the way, you'll be shocked to know she's taken her social media private since then.
No kidding.
Yeah, and her boyfriend, who is a Unitarian Universalist minister, is disavowing her comments.
Okay.
And basically like, I'm going to try to heal you. But he's white, so he needs to shut up. He doesn't have anything to say about it. All right. But here's the rest of Sade Perkins' comments.
Once again, this is no shade to the girls. I hope they all get found. But once again, y'all have to understand the climate that we're living in. They want you to have sympathy for these people. They want you to get out of your bed and to come out of your home and to go find these people and to donate your money to go find these people. Meanwhile, they are deporting your family members. Meanwhile, they're setting up concentration camps and prisons for your family members. And I need y'all to keep that in mind before y'all get out there and put on your rain boots and go find these little girls.
You made that up.
Yeah.
That's the thing. How did Reagan say it? It's like the problem with our liberal friends is that they know so many things that are not true.
Yeah.
And that's really what's at the root of this. I actually had a conversation with one of my friends who's he's more to the left. And I found that there are a number of things that he feels more than he knows. And he's an otherwise very intelligent man, very, very capable, very, very thoughtful. But when I would ask, well, where did you get that information? He said he would kind of hem it. I was like, well, it's just around. Everybody knows this. It's like, no, where did you get the information? If I say something, I say, well, I read it here. It's like, where did you get that information? It's like, well, actually, you know what? I don't know.
Yeah.
I just heard it. And that's how and he adopted the feeling of what he heard.
Right.
So many leftists kind of live in that weird sort of ideological bubble where the feeling of this lack of safety, the feeling of this over abiding racist dynamic in the world, the feeling that there are masked vigilantes running out and grabbing brown people and throwing them in concentration camps is somehow true. They really do believe these things.
Yeah, without evidence.
But
then she made it very clear her priority is the political ideology. And think of that before you go try to rescue these little girls who were washed away by a natural disaster.
Why?
Because it's a complete lack of humanity.
By
the way, she was appointed to like a food insecurity advisory board, and her term had actually expired in January. But it's one of those where they don't really get around to appointing or reappointing, and the mayor's like, yeah, I'm going to get rid of her off there. But it's a volunteer advisory board.
Sure.
But the headlines are she got fired from it. But the mayor's like, yeah, this is gross. You can't be on this anymore. So they're going to run her out of public life, but she'll end up probably being a commencement speaker at some women's college someday somewhere in this country.
Guarantee it.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
On News Talk STL. The Vic Porcelli Show.
So the New York City Central Labor Council endorses socialist Mamdani for mayor. That's why Mark Mix made Right to Work. We'll talk to Mark Tuesday at 10:05.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Scattered rain and thunderstorms developing today, and a few of these storms could be strong to severe with some wind gusts and the potential for some localized flooding. As for timing, well, some rain possible this morning, but storms more likely this afternoon and evening. Prime time from shortly afternoon till about 9 o'clock tonight. A warm and humid day otherwise with a high near 90. The rain shuts down quickly tonight down to 72 for the low, and then partly sunny tomorrow, a high of 88. Maybe a storm or two around tomorrow, but not as widespread as today. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Pat Chambers.
Want to get the most bang for your buck this 4th of July? Monty's Family Fireworks in Troy is your one-stop mom-and-pop shop. We have a wide selection of fantastic fireworks at the best prices in town. Fountains, bottle rockets, cakes, firecrackers, assortments. There's something for everyone, whether you're looking for kid-friendly, adult-only, or anything in between. Monty's Family Fireworks at the corner of 47 and Fairgrounds Road in Troy. You're going to have a blast.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros, your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. We discovered Gutter Pros a few years ago when we bought our home and inherited a gutter issue that was on the road to becoming a potentially big problem, but thanks to Gutter Pros was stopped before causing any major damage. They've also repaired the siding on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros are also the best for siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros can help your home at gutterpros.com.
Getting new flooring can be exciting, or it can be a hassle. To make sure you have a great experience, use Michael's Flooring, like I did. Hi, it's Susie Moore, and Michael's Flooring has become my go-to for quality, variety, and an all-around great experience. They've been locally owned and operated for more than 30 years. Carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, natural stone, luxury vinyl, it doesn't matter. Michael's Flooring is ready to help. 3 locations to pick from: St. Peter's, Darting Prairie, and Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloor.com. That's igotfloor.com.
Life's legal challenges deserve experienced representation. For over 15 years, Cole Combs Attorney at Law has been serving St. Charles and surrounding counties with comprehensive legal expertise. From tax preparation and estate planning to family law and criminal defense, Cole delivers personalized solutions for your unique situation. You have traffic tickets, need a business formation, real estate matters, one call will handle it all. Cole O. Combs Attorney at Law. Call 636-949-0010 extension 3 today, or visit colecombs-law.com.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
Thanks for being my voice in all this.
This is News Talk STL.
There are people out there that feel the way that I feel and say what I say.
Welcome home.
Good morning, Missouri. It's your boy, Joe Pags. I'll talk to you tonight at 10. But right now, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
What's the deal with Josh Hawley?
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, he used to be, or at least he talked up a great game of being fiscally conservative. Now, I'm not talking about, on the social issues and things like that. He's pretty solid conservative on most of those. But on the fiscal policy stuff,
yeah,
there are plenty of members of the Republican Party in Missouri and those in the conservative movement, a few who are going to out loud go, what is going on with Josh Hawley? But there's a whole lot of others who will say it quietly, but don't want to buck the party system. So I'm not talking about the party system here, but what in the world is going on with Josh Hawley? We're going to dive into that in just a moment here.
And join the growing number of people who use us as their local TV morning show by jumping onto the STL News Talk STL video streams. You can put those right onto your smart TV using the YouTube app, or better yet, make sure your smart TV has the Rumble app and watch us there. It's free, and also, I mean, come on. Look at me.
Gabe. Don't look at me. Don't look at Jerome or me. Look at Gabe.
I put a lot of effort into this for you guys.
You make it look so effortless. Just saying. All right. 6:36 right now. We're joined by Sean Higgins from our friends at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. And interesting, piece that you put out on the blog there. We'll tell everybody where to find it. It is regarding Senator Hawley becoming the most pro-union Republican in Congress. And here's the thing, Sean, is that a couple of generations ago, Republicans and labor unions, had a pretty good relationship in different parts of the country. So it's not like there's not precedent for this, but the labor unions have gone into a complete anti-free market Marxist category. The labor unions have moved politically and policy-wise. And then at one point, the Republicans were at least talking a good game when it comes to free market policies. Josh Hawley is jumping ship. I mean, when you write about what's going on with Josh Hawley, what are the things that jump out to you the most? And then we'll talk about how this could backfire, not just against him, but frankly, against the free market conservative policies.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is that he's come out against right to work laws, saying basically that they're unfair to union organizers, which, I mean, from his perspective, that might be the case. But the question is, who really should you be looking out for and supporting in this? And yeah, I would argue that it's the individual workers. I mean, if somebody decides that their union isn't working for them, or that they don't agree with what it does, they ought to be able to have the right to opt out. It should be like any sort of membership-based organization. And Hawley is like, well, no, that's not fair to them. They should be able to essentially force the worker to continue to support the union because the union works for them, even if the worker doesn't agree with that idea. So that's the biggest thing. I mean, he's he supported other legislation. He recently put in for a $15 federal minimum wage. He's called for making it easier and faster for unions to organize by essentially having quick elections, which would essentially mean that if there's any shenanigans in the election, that by the time they would figure that out, the election would already be over and the union would be recognized. So it's a various sort of things where he's just sort of decided he's going to align himself with the union leaders in the belief that this will bring union workers more into the GOP fold. I think he's probably wrong in that regard, but that appears to be the idea.
Good morning, Sean. Gabe here. Yeah, I was going to ask. Well, did we miss it? Did we miss his affiliation with unions prior to him getting elected? Because we thought he was he held the same sort of standard conservative line that said, these unions tend to work against the interests of the workers and certainly against the interests of the party. So when did this happen? And of course, the why? Why did it happen? Do you suppose?
Only he can really answer that. I mean, but you're right; it is fairly recent. I mean, in his very recent history, in his political career, he was thought to be much more of a free market guy and not a particularly strong union guy. In fact, to this day, I mean, his AFL-CIO rating is just 11% in terms of voting their way. Now, that's a little deceptive because a lot of the stuff is just the stuff they rated on is standard budget stuff that flips one way or the other. And big sort of union issues don't really come up that often in, Congress. But for whatever reason, the biggest thing is he just believes that there's union votes that can be swung around to the Republican column. And a big part of this is that just sort of there's a general sort of MAGA idea that, these are unions represent these workers and we protect domestic workers. So maybe we should actually work more with the unions that way. A lot of the union guys do vote for Trump. So maybe this is the right path to go. And the mistake in doing this is that Trump won those workers by basically going over the heads of the union leaders and appealing directly to the workers. And the idea that you need to appeal to the union leaders in order to get those voters is, I think, a false one.
We're visiting with Sean Higgins from the Competitive Enterprise Institute. I've actually, on the Rumble chat box, I've just posted the link to the op-ed. Josh Hawley, friend of the working man, and you can check that out as well. We'll tell you where to find that directly here in just a couple of minutes. Okay, so here, let's talk about the policy aspects of this. You mentioned the $15 an hour minimum wage nationally that he wants to push, and he's not opposed to going higher. There are times now, Sean, and I'm trying not to be snarky about it, but if you just take the quotes on economic and fiscal and labor policy, you can't tell the difference between something Josh Hawley said and something Bernie Sanders said. Josh Hawley is obviously a popular, young, by political standards, politician who many people think are up on the rise. Does this pose any concerns for those of us in the free market aspect of things and the fiscal conservative camp?
I think it should. I mean, unions have in recent years sort of retooled their strategies, and they used to be for a long time very sort of part of the progressive left and very sort of proudly part of the progressive left. And I think they've realized that they're alienating a lot of people, and they have a lot of their own sort of rank and file members who don't necessarily agree with that, and they're facing some sort of pressure from within the ranks for doing that. So they need to sort of retool and present themselves as more more sort of big tent and sort of inclusive and not necessarily knee-jerkily anti-Republican. But at the same time, they're trying to do that without necessarily changing any of the policies or beliefs that they've been pushing for the last few years. It's a subtle thing. And the reason why I wrote the column was because I think Josh Hawley is kind of the leading edge of this. He's trying to take these union ideas and sort of very, anti-competitive, anti-free market ideas and try and retool them as conservative ideas by sort of presenting them as kind of MAGA adjacent.
Yeah, I mean, and wasn't union participation and union membership, hasn't that been on the decline in the private sector for a number of years? I mean, with the president's approach with like tariffs and all that kind of stuff, maybe that's changing. And I'm not talking about the public sector, but in the private sector, I mean, the trend in our economy was away from organized labor.
It has been for the last 30, 40 odd years. That's been tracked by the Labor Department. It's dropped from about 20% of the workforce was unionized to now just 10%. And I believe only 6% of that is actually the private sector. The rest of it is public sector workers. But while it has shrunk, it hasn't shrunk in terms of a head count. What's basically happened is as the economy has grown in the country, unions haven't kept up. So the total head count of union members is about the same as it was about 40 years ago. It's just that the economy is that much larger.
What kind of impact could this have on our policy that's set from the federal government? Because we're talking about you don't partner with unions and fight for small government. You do it to fight for protectionism, and you fight for big government. You fight to keep competitors away from the union workers. So what is the potential impact policy wise, and how could that affect the rest of us?
It means generally a less robust, less free market economy. I mean, one of the things they're trying to do is they're trying to make it so that all gig workers are basically regular employees, because because a gig worker is basically a freelancer, and a freelancer under present sort of federal law is very hard to organize. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. And so they're trying to change the laws and regulations to make them all recognized as regular employees, which means that a lot of these places won't hire a lot of these people, and a lot of those workers won't actually want to do gig work, because the whole reason why they do it is because they only want to do it for a few hours every other week or something like that. So we're seeing a lot of the sort of things that are happening in the economy and the way it's growing and changing could be stifled if they go back to this, because they're just trying to keep everything in under the sort of 1930s era laws that were originally created to facilitate unionization.
All right, Sean Higgins, Competitive Enterprise Institute. The article was originally published at National Review, so people may have seen it there, but it is also linked on your all's website. Where do people access that?
They go CEI.org, Competitive Enterprise Institute, and it's just 6 letters and a period on your internet search.
All right, Sean, good to chat with you again. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
All right, 314-912-1019. Looking at the Rumble chat while that conversation was going on, Gabe. A lot of skepticism. And the thing is that Josh Hawley is a very, very, very smart guy.
Yeah.
And he's conservative in the social areas. And when it comes to trying to question radical leftists in these Senate hearings, between him and Ted Cruz, you've got somebody you don't want to mess with if you're on the wrong side of things.
They've been pretty solid in those.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. There's a lot that he's doing really well and very right. So I don't understand his stepping away from conservatism in this particular area, because as Sean said, the gig economy is the future.
Right.
And it's a future that allows maximum freedom and entrepreneurialism in this country. Why you would be siding with the people who want to kill that, I don't know. And the idea that we've got to continually bump up a federal minimum wage despite literally a couple hundred years of evidence that shows that kills jobs for the most vulnerable, it just makes no sense why he would get in bed with these unions. It's really disappointing.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
This is like giving you a bowl of doggy do, put a cherry on top, and call it a chocolate sundae.
On Newstalk STL. This is 101.9 and 94.1.
You know, millennial Trump supporter. I listen to it like every day. Like, seriously, you get it.
Newstalk STL.
Tired of the same old pizza chains? Boring. Want a delicious alternative? Look no further. Woodson Stonefire has you covered, offering a delicious, mouth-watering alternative with a wide menu that surely offers something for everyone's taste. Our pizza will have you saying wow. Family-owned and operated, in addition to being locally owned. Pizza is truly our passion. Woodson Stonefire, 3120 West Clay in St. Charles. Call 636-493-0532 to place your order now.
Tony Colombo here for my dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, the one-stop shop for all your family's dental needs. And Dr. Boscia is always expanding his services, now including the incredible all-on-4 full arch implant procedure, full mouth restoration that can give you back your smile in as little as 1 day. No more suffering with damaged or missing teeth or poor fitting dentures. You can see some amazing smile makeovers, learn more about the All-on-4 procedure, and see everything Dr. Boscia can do right now at newcreationdentalcare.com.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at Stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey folks, Jamie Allman here, waiting for you for the 3 Martini Lunch, the Common Sense Radio, the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Now back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Okay, so I'm trying to just make the logical, put together the logic of it all. If you believe that it is a cover-up, and I'm talking about the Epstein thing, if you believe this is a cover-up, then logically, do you have to add the current administration to those doing the covering up?
Well,
all right, we'll get into that here in just a second. St. Louis is saying goodbye to a first responder this week, beginning today, and the violent left stepping up their war, and I mean actual violent warfare, as in shooting bullets at law enforcement. I'll give you the update in just a moment. It is coming up on 6:50. Let's go ahead and dump some news on you here.
Successful dump. Wake up, America. It all worked out.
They got all the news.
The morning news dump.
Okay, so yesterday we were reporting on the Axios story that had been picked up by Red State and a number of others that said the Department of Justice has concluded their investigation and closed it into the Epstein case. And they found, you know what? No clients, no client list. Nobody actually bought. Just go away. Trust us. It's not, there's nothing here.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm sure that's how it works.
So now, because we were trying to give some room saying, well, Axios is kind of on the left and maybe they'll retract it because we couldn't find the link after a little bit. Maybe they got ahead of themselves, but no. It's been confirmed. The White House officially doubles down on that story of the Justice Department releasing a memo concluding that Jeffrey Epstein did not have clients for the trafficking of these victims. And I say victims, many of them obviously underage, but could very well have been some who were of age, but that doesn't change the fact that they were victims. They also concluded that he committed suicide in federal prison in 2019. We've talked about that in the past, but obviously the argument that there were no buyers or clients for the operation that Ghislaine Maxwell has been sent to prison for defies any sort of logic. But still, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt praising the memo and, of course, the Trump administration's commitment to what she says is government transparency. If you can make sense of this, please explain it to me.
They put out a memo in conclusion of that review. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate for public consumption. But they committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did, and they provided the results of that.
Yeah, we know they weren't going to release pictures and description. We knew that. That's not what we wanted.
No,
we wanted a list of names. Here's the thing.
That's what they promised.
They promised us a list of names, and they could have curated that from whatever testimony, whatever documents, or whatever their investigation pulled out. Because the thing is, this isn't like your average pimp, on the side of the street. It wasn't just randos who were showing up at Epstein's island. Okay. It's not randos who would get on the plane. He knew who those people were. He had records of, I'm sure there was exchanges of information. There were logs that could be correlated to the times and dates of the actual trafficking activities for which Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted. So we should have some freaking names.
Yeah. And we, at this point, I can only assume, this is Mike Ferguson talking, that there are very, very influential, important, and powerful people, probably on both sides of the aisle, who are being protected. And I'm not trying to take away from the things that Donald Trump is doing right and doing well. I support those regularly on the show, but there's no excuse for this.
No,
this is an integrity issue.
Yeah. Now I will say there could be a reason. I don't accept any reason for it. But
don't tell me it's not there.
But don't tell me it's not there.
Tell me there's a reason.
Absolutely. Tell me it's like because of operational security of blah, blah. You can make some bullcrap up.
People's lives would be in danger.
Say something, but don't tell us there's no list. You're insulting my intelligence.
Exactly. All right. The media likes to call them surgical abortions, make it in medical terminology. Reality calls it killing. However you want to refer to it, those have resumed in Missouri after that Jackson County court ruling that essentially ended all health and safety regulations and ended restrictions on abortion. As of Monday, though, no abortion providers around the state had submitted their required plans to be able to administer chemical abortions, but they are working on that, and they likely will have that in place very soon. So right now, if you want to kill a child, you have to go do it in person at this point. All right. Search and rescue teams continue to look for victims of that flash flooding in parts of Texas. Over 100 people are already confirmed dead. Kelly Rabon was on Fox News Channel's Fox News at Night, talking about how one of her sons was actually at Camp La Junta, which is less than 6 miles away from Camp Mystic, which was hit particularly hard. And her son was stuck in his cabin when the flooding hit there.
He ended up in the rafters of his bunk. And this is a kid who just graduated kindergarten. So it's terrifying.
Camp Mystic has confirmed 27 children and counselors have died from the floods. That number is expected to go up. They are still looking. There's still hope that they can find some victims, but at some point it's going to become a recovery operation as opposed to a rescue operation.
So tragic.
Visitation services for a fallen St. Louis City firefighter take place this afternoon. Lee Krause died on July 1st. He suffered a medical emergency while on duty a few days before. The visitation happens from 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock this afternoon at the Hofmeister Colonial Mortuary. The memorial service is planned for tomorrow morning at the same location. Firefighter Krause was 52 years old. So around the city of St. Louis, you're going to see flags at half staff. That is in honor of him. All right. Let's see here. Government is investigating multiple recent attacks on federal agents involved in immigration enforcement, including one at the Border Patrol facility in McAllen, Texas. U.S. Border Patrol Chief Mike Banks was blaming anti-ICE rhetoric, and he was on Fox's America Reports talking about how that can and should be toned down.
We've got to continue our messaging, right? But then we've also got to hold those that are encouraging violence against law enforcement or inciting violence. We've got to hold them accountable and prosecute those individuals.
So a 27-year-old man was killed after opening fire at that Border Patrol facility in McAllen. A McAllen police officer also injured in that attack. Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy of the White House, not mincing words when he was discussing this on Jesse Waters' Primetime on Fox.
There is an insurrectionist movement in the Democratic Party that is inspiring domestic terrorism against ICE.
So what we've got here is there was a paramilitary attack. I mean, people dressed up in basically black bloc sort of, not really uniforms, but they went in to kill law enforcement, and that's where the left is taking this.
Yeah, they seem to be itching for an armed conflict, which they're not going to fare well.
No, but this is how radical that they have become. Remember, all of this is over the Trump administration and the federal government saying, if you are illegally in this country, particularly the violent criminals and gangbangers, we're going to get you out of this country. And that's what they're willing to kill and die for are the people. Now, are they out there risking their lives to protect, young women like Lake and Riley? No, but they're willing to kill law enforcement officers who are trying to get rid of MS-13 members.
Right.
I mean, that's the extreme version of it, but that's the logical conclusion that this has come from. All right. Let's see here. A little bit of sports. Cardinals are back at home. They start a series with the Nationals tonight. I'm sure they're glad to be out of Chicago after getting their butts whooped 2 out of 3 times at Wrigley Field. So tonight's game is a 6:45 first pitch as usual. FanDuel has that game.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Hi, Kirk Hilsinger here, and I'm the new chairman of the St. Louis Republican Central Committee. I invite you to our meetings that take place the first Thursday of every month at 3710 Hampton Avenue. You can stay connected with us to learn more about how you can get involved, make your voice heard, and contribute to our shared goals. Together, we can make a difference in the city of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. For more info, visit our new website at stl-gop.com. That's stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Hungry for the best steak you'll ever have? Head to the heart of Moscow Mills and discover Harry J's, a local landmark and family-owned steakhouse, serving up excellence since '98. From mouth-watering appetizers to decadent desserts, Harry J's has something for everyone. Enjoy our extensive bar selection while soaking in our friendly family atmosphere. Whether dine in or carry out, your meal is prepared to perfection. Make the drive to 300 Main Street and treat yourself to a taste of Moscow Mills' finest. Harry J's, more than a steakhouse. We're a tradition.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour at townhall.com. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Israel's prime minister says he's nominating President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize.
He's forging peace as we speak in one country and one region after the other.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House for dinner Monday.
I want to present to you, Mr. President, the letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee. It's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well-deserved, and you should get it.
Thank you very much. This I didn't know. Wow.
The two leaders celebrated their recent joint strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, hailing the 12-day war as an unmitigated success. And Thomas, Washington.
Amazon's annual Prime Day sales event is here once again, affecting consumers around the U.S. and elsewhere. The e-commerce giant making the now misnamed Prime Day a 4-day event for the first time since the company first launched the event back in 2015. It expanded it to 2 days in 2019. Some retail analysts expect people to stock up on their purchases, fearing that the tariff battles could actually raise prices in the short run. The president keeping up those tariff pressures on key U.S. trading partners. The White House released letters on Monday telling Japan and South Korea to expect tariffs of 25% starting in August. The president warns of an additional 25% if they retaliate. The death toll from catastrophic flooding in Texas over the 4th of July weekend has now surpassed 100. Firefighter Jesus Gomez helped to recover one of the victims.
It's a lot of debris, very heavy stuff, and removing by hand, it's tough. There are some parts that heavy equipment can get into there, and we need to start removing by hand.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the federal government is cooperating with Texas officials. More from townhall.com.
If you're living with pain, see how Relief Factor can help.
I'm an artist and I'm in my studio. I listen to the radio all day and I'm hearing the ads about Relief Factor. And I've got pain in my neck and it's getting worse. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to go ahead and order this. 2 weeks later, I've got much better range of motion. If you're experiencing pain at a certain point in life, I would get Relief Factor.
Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor. Go to relieffactor.com and get your 3-week quick start today. Only $19.95.
Are you over the age of 55 and want to secure your wealth with physical gold and silver? We are Advantage Gold, the #1 customer-rated gold company in America. We have been helping investors take their 401ks and retirement accounts and diversify them into physical precious metals like gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. Call us right now, 800-900-8000. Just call 800-900-8000 and claim your free gold investing starter kit. Also learn how you might qualify for up to $10,000 in free gold and silver. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Please consult your tax or financial advisor. Call us at 800-900-8000.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Scattered rain and thunderstorms developing today, and a few of these storms could be strong to severe with some wind gusts and the potential for some localized flooding. As for timing, well, some rain possible this morning, but storms more likely this afternoon and evening. Prime time from shortly afternoon till about 9 o'clock tonight. A warm and humid day otherwise with a high near 90. The rain shuts down quickly tonight down to 72 for the low, and then partly sunny tomorrow, a high of 88. Maybe a storm or two around tomorrow, but not as widespread as today. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Think you know your facts? Put your knowledge to the test at the St. Louis Young Republicans Trivia Night. Join us Friday, July 25th at the St. Louis County GOP headquarters in Fenton for an evening of fun facts and fantastic company. Meet fellow conservatives while competing for great prizes. Doors at 5:45, trivia at 6:30. Reserve your table and get tickets now at stlyrs.com. BethSTLYRS.com. Presented by News Talk STL.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Mike Ferguson,
You play ball like a girl!
Gabe Phifer,
I triple dog dare you!
Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice, drain the swamp, and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! This is your cousin.
All right, I'm not surprised by activist, using air quotes here, guys, news reporting anymore, but we got another reminder of that in St. Louis. Yes, I am about to tear into one of the media outlets right here in town. They can come at me if they want to dispute it.
How insane can the allegedly highly educated be?
Yeah.
Hear about the whole new level of radical a professor at a major public university aspires to reach. That's at 7:20. By the way, this is a public university. Sure, your taxpayer dollars are helping to pay this guy's salary.
And this is beyond stupid. So I've got the guy's comments at the National Socialist Convention over the weekend.
Jeez.
Yeah.
There it is.
However bad you think it's going to be, it's worse.
Oh, fun.
Okay. On so many levels. And I was tempted to just laugh at him when I was cutting up these sound bites, but I'm like, wait a minute. This guy's got a whole bunch of books published. He's considered an expert in his field by the Academy. He's shaping how young people are thinking. And then we wonder how we get those people like Sade Perkins that we played sound bites from earlier. It's because of people like this.
Yeah.
All right. 706 going on 707 right now. All right. I found the story on KSTK. KSTK is not a news organization.
No.
You know, there's a lot of bad reporting in St. Louis and a lot of different a lot of different news outlets. KSDK is not a journalism organization. Okay?
No, they might occasionally trip into journalism.
Right.
They might accidentally step in journalism, and it's like, oh, I got something on me, and then they present it to you. But for the most part, they're not journalists.
KSDK is a leftist activist organization which tries to pretend that it's actual news reporting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at this article written by somebody named Hunter Basler. I don't know Hunter Basler. And it was on that story that's actually I've also put into my news dump regarding abortions have resumed in Missouri.
Right.
Okay. So, but this isn't about the abortion thing. This is about how they're framing it. And if they tell you, well, we're just reporting the news. No, they're not. Let's dissect this, because I gave you a copy of this this news report right here.
Yes.
When you look through this, here's one of the ways that they're trying to frame this. And of course, it starts off, clinics throughout Missouri have restarted some, but not all abortion procedures on Monday. That's accurate. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Look at the third paragraph of this, Gabe.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going to read it.
You go ahead.
Surgical abortion procedures often take a short amount of time and are more effective compared with medical abortions. Okay. Medical abortions, what they're referring to there, right there, is the chemical, the pill. Okay.
Right, this is a pill.
According to the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, here's how the article goes on. An estimated 98% of surgical abortions are successful. Okay, so what is success?
Right. Yeah. See, if we're talking about an actual medical procedure or an actual medical treatment, it's usually it's working against some sort of ailment, right?
Right.
And they measure success by the relief of an ailment. Right. So a cancer treatment is 75% effective, meaning after this treatment, 75% of people don't have cancer anymore.
Right.
Right.
Or it's in remission.
Or it's in remission, something like that. So they have a criteria. What is success?
Right.
For an abortion?
Yeah, it is the death of a human being. So according to this, 98% successful, but notice the positive term. I'm a communications guy. I pay attention to how the stuff's framed. Yeah. That means 1 out of every 50 surgical abortions result in a baby surviving it.
Right.
And that's considered unsuccessful by logic. It is unsuccessful when a human being survives and is born.
That's what's being discussed.
That's how this is being framed by Hunter Basler at KSDK.
Yeah. They're discussing basically the deaths of humans.
Yeah.
As medical success.
Right. And it goes on to say, it says an estimated 98% of surgical abortions are successful compared with 95 to 97% success rate of medication abortions.
Again, we're talking about
children
being able to survive attempted murder in the world.
Right, exactly. And then it goes on. The article goes on to talk about that order that was issued. Which, you know what, Steve Rupp from Missouri Right to Life has told us, we knew this was coming because of the way Amendment 3 was written so broadly. We knew eventually that the courts were going to say, no, you can't put anything to stop these abortions. But get this. This is the article.
It's
this
another
is
one.
the paragraph I underlined too. I'm just going to read directly from KSDK's news coverage here. Missouri lawmakers, in an attempt to overturn the will of the voters, passed a new ballot measure asking voters to repeal the Abortion Rights Amendment in 2026.
Wait a minute.
Right.
Wait a minute. Let's logic this out.
Right. If you can, I mean, good luck to you.
In an attempt to overturn the will of the voters, they're going to ask the voters to vote.
Yes. And that is what Hunter Basler and KSDK says is overturning the will of the voters by putting something on the ballot.
For voters.
Yes. For voters to decide.
So according to this, the way this is constructed, you can vote, the same voters can voting to overturn what they just voted for is a bad thing. That's how it's being cast.
Right. That is overturning the will. See, and that's why I say KSDK is not a news organization. It is not a journalism organization. This is activism. This isn't journalism.
Nope.
And this is what we talked with Ed Grewatch about the other day from Missouri Right to Life, is we know that we're going to be up against this kind of messaging. Now, we expect it from the ACLU. We expect it from Planned Parenthood. We expect it from the Missouri Democrats.
Well, those are activist organizations.
We expect that
by
from
nature.
the socialist groups. This is somebody saying, trust me, we're just giving you the facts. And they're trying to frame it as, well, the fact is you're trying to the government's trying to overturn the will or overturn the will of the voters, when that is absolutely the opposite of what's happening. They are lying. This person, Hunter Bassler, is lying in the way that it was written.
It's a nonsensical statement.
Yeah.
It really is. The idea that you're trying to overturn the will of the voters by asking them to vote again.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. Here's how the democratic process within our republic works. Is voters can change their minds.
They did on Clean Missouri.
They did on Clean Missouri. The voters can vote on a slightly different version of the thing they thought they were voting for in the first place.
Yeah.
They can vote for a different interpretation of, because it's up to the lawmakers to present these things. It's up to set the stage for what the voters can choose between. Because that first Amendment 3 was, okay, you can choose the status quo, which they didn't like. It went a little too far for most Missourians, or you can go over here, which we're lying about, right? Now they're getting what was lied about,
right?
And the lawmakers are saying maybe we should ask them again, but better,
right? And so they do have a quote from the ACLU on here. There is no quote from any pro-life organization.
Oh, of course not.
But get this. What about the second part of that sentence here? Missouri lawmakers, in an attempt to overturn the will of the voters, passed by the way, this thing passed with like what, 1% of the vote, something, 1 point something percent.
Barely.
So in an attempt to overturn the will of voters, passed a new ballot measure asking voters to repeal the what? Abortion rights amendment in 2026. Anytime you can say something as blank rights, it's got a positive connotation.
Right. So anybody acting against it is
anti something, and it
anti-rights.
doesn't really matter what it is. Anti cerebrally sounds bad. You don't want to be anti, you want to be pro rights.
Right.
You know, that's just so what you've got here is an activist. This is a press release from the pro-abortion community. This is not journalism. So we talk about the probably tens of millions of dollars we're going to be up against in messaging. Understand that there is even more that we're going to be dealing with that's unpaid, that is just part of the mainstream media being dishonest. And it's that trying to lay the foundation and putting the pro-life side in a position to have to spend time and energy correcting the narrative that's dishonest.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing in this right here. And I would say, I don't mean to pick on KSDK, but I do, because they're the worst in town. They're on par with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, but of all the broadcast organizations, they're probably as bad as even the NPR. And even NPR has a couple of people who do a pretty good job here in St. Louis, many of them who don't. But when it comes to actual television, KSDK is the worst. And this is just one example of their blatant bias and dishonesty.
It's disgusting.
Trying to pretend that it's actual journalism. Journalism's dead.
You have a soul sewn dark, it is no more. And all at once depart, no destination. Making cold my heart to fight your war.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. Mike Ferguson. Gabe Phifer. Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. Columbo and Company.
The White House continues to face backlash surrounding their Jeffrey Epstein memo. We'll discuss the latest on Tuesday. Plus, Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com and Susie Moore from Red State.
Live and local weekdays at 2 on NewsTalkSTL.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good, casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Yo, this is Vic. Vic for Vets is proudly honoring our veterans. Every weekday at 11:05, you'll hear about that day's honoree and their incredible service to our country.
Hi, it's Ken. You want to nominate a veteran? Send their name, service information, and story to me, Ken, at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Brought to you by Heroes Care, Alamo Military Collectibles, and Monocle's Pizza.
Together, let's celebrate the heroes in our community. Vic for Vets, where honor meets gratitude.
I think we should be able to have a civil conversation.
The news and talk that matters to St. Louis.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
News Talk STL.
Hi, this is Susie Moore. Check out my show, Red State Radio, Sunday afternoon at 4, right here on News Talk STL. Now it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Okay, institutions of higher learning, they don't change their names often, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, when they do, it's usually to reflect some kind of growth or they got bigger. For instance, remember Southwest Missouri State University. It's not Southwest Missouri State University anymore. It's Missouri State University.
Right.
Oh. Yeah. So that was a big deal.
They grew.
Right. Northeast Missouri State University is now Truman State University. And that was just a branding change, but they decided to change. They wanted to be kind of a, not just a regional. So they wanted to reflect a new branding. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
Yeah.
But one sick socialist professor, it's always a socialist.
It's always, clearly.
Pushing for a large university. We're talking one that's won national championships to change its name. You're going to love this one, guys.
Okay. Look, regardless of what they want to call themselves, we have to push back against bad ideas in education at the local level as well. So at 7:35, maybe Francis Howell school board member Jane Puszkar updates us on the fight for common sense and basic decency around here.
Yeah, we had a lot of momentum. Do we still have the momentum? So we'll talk to Jane about that. It's been a little while since Jane's been on the program here.
Yeah.
By the way, 7:20 right now. Okay, so if it were not for the academy, most,
I would argue most. I'd argue most
people who are professors would not have employment because they offer no valuable skills or anything valuable to the real world.
Absolutely useless, drivel spewing socialist monsters.
It would be like they would be by the bridge on Lindbergh going, "We'll debate you for food." I mean, they have nothing to offer.
They would be among the paid protesters, and that would be the sole source of income, as opposed to public tax
There's
dollars.
a few here and there, who are offering something to society, but so many of them, the universities and the academy is a jobs program for the otherwise unemployable and just narcissistically toxic.
Yes.
Case in point, Professor David McNally from the University of Houston. Okay, so he was speaking at the 2025 National Socialist Convention or Conference in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
This past
the
weekend.
Commie Party.
I would set this up with a grandiose intro, but I think I'm just going to let him speak for himself here. Okay.
Keep in mind that everything I'm about to say presupposes we're in a context of growing and insurgent mass movements.
Okay, that's it. That's important because this is what he wants to see here. There's a growing insurgent mass movement, and he's choosing his words carefully.
And mass struggle. Because without that precondition, I'm just doing a thought experiment for you. But let's assume for the sake of argument that we're in the kind of insurgency that we saw in 2020. Okay?
Which means that he looks at that as a good thing.
By insurgency, he means the Summer of Love stuff.
Correct. That's precisely what he's talking about. Okay.
Look like in my own workplace, being someone who is within a public institution. First, we would fight for and win Sanctuary Campus. ICE would be gone. It would have no capacity to enter the campus space at all.
How would
Secondly,
do that?
Yeah, because there's something sacred about the holy grounds of a university.
Oh no, we
campus.
can't step on here.
Oh, geez. Especially one paid for by tax dollars that's owned by the public.
we would push for and win divestment from apartheid and militarism.
By the way, that's code word.
That's for Israel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
From
by the way, he was wearing a keffiyeh when he was saying this,
yeah.
by the way, just to let you know.
The Palestinian.
So it's
hate rag.
basically, the terrorist rag. So basically, he's wearing a keffiyeh, and he'll reference Palestine here in a minute, but basically it's divestment from militarism and
apartheid.
I think, which is basically like, I don't want to use the words, but I hate the Jews, basically.
Climate destroying investments. We would replace the campus police with democratically constituted and elected safety committees.
Oh, it gets better.
What?
It gets better.
What does that mean?
That's a great question.
Okay, so drunk guys getting in a fight on the front lawn of a quad, and you call the democratically elected safety commission?
Right.
What?
Security guards should not be democratically elected.
No.
They should be based on the biggest, toughest guy you can hire.
Oh, it gets better,
He's
guys.
like, don't you dare arrest me. I'm going to campaign against you during your next election cycle.
Yes. Are you robbing that person? Let's take a vote.
We would restore and massively resource the eliminated LGBTQ plus center. We would fight to abolish tuition and grades. Okay?
Wait. Okay. So somehow make it free for me to not learn anything.
Yes. Well, free for you. I'd have to.
You'd pay for me.
Yeah.
If you're not getting graded, what's the point of even going?
It's like, how do you know that you accomplished anything without a measure?
But let's talk about the worldview here. He's an overt socialist.
Right.
By the way, I printed the bio that University of Houston publishes. I've got it right there. Look at his most recent book that was just released. We'll get to that in just a second here. But the socialist worldview is one that does not include or value merit.
That's true. Yeah. And of course, grades are a measure of merit.
Right.
And you can't have a measure because that would force you to create a hierarchy. And they hate those.
Okay. So this just gets better and better. Wait,
oh my God.
Okay. So here's more of Professor David McNally.
We would try to develop forms of worker self-management because we don't need managers.
So what are you doing?
We would open the university up in such a way that it becomes a resource of the broader community.
Okay, here it comes, guys. Here it comes. Here it comes.
And I can tell you with great confidence that in the third ward of Houston, that means we will be renamed the George Floyd University.
Gotcha.
No, he didn't.
He did. He did. Oh, here's the last couple seconds of that clip.
For those of you who don't know, George Floyd grew up in Houston's third ward, and he went to high school about half to 3/4 of a mile from our campus.
Is that where he got addicted to drugs?
Yeah. I was going to say George Floyd, that great philanthropist, philosopher, and consumer of every freaking drug known to man.
Because when I think of inspiring academics, I think of people like Sexy Red. I think of people like George Floyd. I think of people like Michael Brown.
Yeah, clearly.
God, yes, the scholars. Okay, did you see his most recent book that was published? Look at towards the very end of that.
Okay. So I'm having trouble with this one. the Deutscher Memorial Award for he won the Deutscher Memorial Award for this book. Monsters of the Market: Zombies, Vampires, and Global Capitalism.
Yeah.
What?
Yes. Oh, look at his most recent offering though.
I'm sorry. That's not even
book. That's not the most recent book.
His latest book, Slavery and Capitalism: A New Marxist View, has been published by the University of California Press. So a new Marxist view on slavery and capitalism. I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's riveting. I imagine.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so here's more from Professor David McNally speaking at the National Socialist Conference. By the way, your tax dollars are paying for his salary.
Absolutely.
Just so you know.
When the American Association of University Professors called its April 17th day of action, let me tell you that in Texas right now, for us to seize central campus space for 3 hours and have Palestinian flags and trans students openly speaking and union activists from off campus.
By the way, you can't have trans students speaking in Palestine.
No, yeah. Try doing that there, Sparky.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
I'll pay $1 to see you try that. I'm just saying. Oh my gosh.
Coming and speaking with us when we had a mobilization of 250 students and workers on a campus in a state that's being subjected to such a high level of repression, you begin to see, okay, if that kind of social insurgency can be dramatically extended, then yeah, ICE off campus, that's real. Sanctuary campus can be real. Divestment from apartheid can be real. And once you get insurgent social movements, we all know, every one of us who's ever experienced it, we know how transformative that can be.
Okay, so most of today's stupid ideas, I think, come from these esteemed institutions of higher learning. It comes from people like this.
Oh yeah,
this is an evil human being who's getting paid by all of us to dump this garbage down the throats of your kids.
I think since about even earlier, I was going to say since the 60s, but even earlier than that, the big head thinkers of the Western society have been coming up with these garbage ideas, and we've been letting them do so because here's the thing that about academics, and Thomas Sowell says this in one of his books, Academics and Society or something like that, where he says that this is one of the few professions where you can have a very powerful position to express your ideas, but you suffer no consequences for when those ideas are put into place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because look, in the business world, you can have a great idea, and when you put it into place, you either make money or you lose money, right? If you have a big idea about how to order your personal household, you're either going to have a stable family or you're going to have a crazy, crazy thing that requires, not surgery, but therapy at the end. But academics, they can throw out these stupid ideas, these world-changing, society-influencing ideas, and fill all of the heads full of mush that come through their classrooms with these ideas, send them out into the world. They suffer zero consequences for it.
Yeah, exactly. Academic freedom.
Yeah.
Which I have your academic freedom. Just why am I paying for this? Amy on Rumble says slaves don't need grades.
She's right.
Yep.
That's how socialism works.
Yeah. If you hear this coming from anybody at your child's school, get your refund immediately. And speaking of socialists, there are terrorists in our midst. Just waiting. Maybe Larry Connors can let us know what's going on with that coming up next.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Scattered rain and thunderstorms developing today, and a few of these storms could be strong to severe with some wind gusts and the potential for some localized flooding. As for timing, well, some rain possible this morning, but storms more likely this afternoon and evening. Prime time from shortly afternoon till about 9 o'clock tonight. A warm and humid day otherwise with a high near 90. The rain shuts down quickly tonight down to 72 for the low, and then partly sunny tomorrow, a high of 88. Maybe a storm or two around tomorrow, but not as widespread as today. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Pat Shane.
Well, it is definitely summer here in the heartland. Time to call Hanson's Tree Service for all of your commercial and residential tree care. Tim Jones here for Hanson's Tree Service. Let them come out to your homestead or your business today. Take care of everything regarding the exterior of your home. Grinding and land clearing, all residential and commercial tree services. They've got fantastic organic mulch in bulk, plant health care as well. Give them a call, 636-379-1830, 24/7. They're always available at hansonstree.com. That's hansonstree.com.
Larry Connor's Commentary, brought to you by Vincent's Jewelers, offering a wide selection of jewelry, including lab-grown diamonds, affordable earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, up to 75% off their natural counterparts. Visit vincentsjewelers.com. This is Larry Connor's Commentary on News Talk STL.
There is a documentary currently airing on the terrorist attacks in London. 4 different bombers carried out coordinated attacks July 7, 2005. 3 in the tunnel on the subways, 1 on a bus. London and the world had already seen how terrorists attacked the World Trade Center and our nation, so they'd been on alert since 9/11. But that was 4 years earlier. So if London thought maybe it was now safe, that literally got blown away. Gathering evidence to trace the bombers, obviously difficult. There were initial concerns the attackers were Muslim, which put the entire Muslim population under scrutiny. Muslim leaders were insisting those responsible are not true Muslims. As investigators got more details, they found that the attackers were London-born, but had been radicalized. As former Prime Minister Blair said, they enjoyed all we offer as a nation, and for some reason were willing to kill themselves to destroy us. There's no rational explanation, but no doubt with our open borders, we have many inside our nation.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Public schools, like public libraries, should be free and open to all. Open enrollment allows parents to choose the school that's the best fit for their children. Maybe another school has a wider curriculum, is bigger or smaller. Maybe a kid is being bullied and would be more comfortable at another school. 75% of parents favor open enrollment. Open enrollment programs now exist in 43 states, and Missouri should join them. Our next-door neighbor, Kansas, has one of the strongest open enrollment policies in the nation. Kansas parents are trusted with choices and options, while Missouri parents must move out of their home to change public schools. And it's a trend. Nationwide, the percentage of students going to their chosen public school has steadily increased. Assigning kids to schools based on their zip code is the old way. Open enrollment is a better way. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA, SIPC.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
Thanks for taking my call.
Right here.
You know what's going on?
Have our great awakening.
You see through the smoke screen.
It's cool to be woke. News Talk STL.
Until it's not.
News, analysis, opinion.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, a few years ago, we started seeing some momentum against kind of the worst of public education, particularly here in the St. Louis area. And we're talking about the bias. We're talking about, I mean, let's just call it what it is, the porn in the K through 12 school libraries, the indoctrination. And we saw good people elected in multiple school districts around the region. So it's all better now, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Now, don't forget that all of our discussions with anybody who comes through the show, including Jane, our discussion with Jane, is going to be available as a podcast. You can go back through our archives. You can look up pretty much any topic, any interview we've had, and go back and look at those. Or you could watch us streaming. You could stream us via podcast in real time and catch it as we go.
Yep. All right. It is 7:37 right now, joined now by Jane Puszkar from the Francis Howell School District, the school board. And Jane, great to chat with you again here. A couple different things. I set up the conversation like that because, you know, you were among those who were elected, and then there were a few others, you know, who got elected who, were like, we're finally reminding people, particularly conservatives, that these school board races are crucial. And we were just having the conversation about what happens if we lose control of the K through 12 system, of the academy, and the garbage that they're putting down, on our young people. And so that's why these are so crucial. But the couple different cases that's going on, I want to get to the school library thing and the fact that your school district wasn't allowing a guy to come speak and point out some facts. But let me start with a recent Missouri Supreme Court decision. It's kind of wonky, kind of legalese and that sort of stuff. But there was a student in the Blue Springs School District, which is on the western side of the state, who is one of these gender confused, mentally ill kids. And it had to do with the bathrooms and where, is this a girl who's pretending to be a boy or a boy who's pretending to be a girl? I was always confusing with the stories that were written.
Hi, Mike, and thanks for having me on. Yes, this is it's a she. It's a transgender male, and I know that confuses a lot of people.
Yeah, so it's a girl. It's a mentally ill girl, is what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted to use the boys' bathrooms, and then of course, the public education system generally is rushing to try to affirm this sort of dysfunction and dysphoria. And so the Supreme Court ruled on this, and this gives school districts a little more leeway right now. What do we need to know?
Okay, what actually happened, this started in about 2015, and what happened was the court case was based on Missouri Human Rights Act, which is, in my estimation, a hot mess. It walks like a duck and talks like a turkey. It says one thing and just really does another. So what they sued on that right, and what they found was that it was, at first it ruled in their favor. It ended up going to the Missouri Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, oh, no, number one, you're not going to get the $4 million award that you were given in appeals. And also the fact is that you can't say that you were discriminated against because of your gender identity. You were not discriminated against based on that. You were allowed to go into the girls' bathroom or single sex, so you were not, discriminated against. So that gave a whole lot of goodwill to the side that wants to protect these young ladies and young men from having the opposite sex in their bathroom. It was really a landmark case. There is one other case that is still being decided, and that's in Platte County. But my thought is, because the way this one went, that one's probably going to go the same way. Just my opinion. I'm not a lawyer.
Sure.
But yeah.
Good morning, Jane. Gabe here. So I've got very limited information on this, but my understanding is that there was a black conservative pastor who now he does a lot of these speaking engagements or he goes to school board meetings, I should say, and he speaks about the grooming materials, the pornographic materials, the inappropriate materials that end up in our schools, and he confronts the board on those things. And my understanding is he wasn't allowed to speak recently at a meeting. Could you tell us a little bit more about this situation?
That's exactly right. His name is Pastor John Amanchukwu. He comes from North Carolina, and he goes from around the country talking about pornography in our schools. He came to North Carolina all the way to our school district to speak for 3 minutes. He had what they call a roommate agreement, which a lot of districts in the country will allow him to speak because of that. But in either case, we have a policy that says, if you can only speak if you live in the district. However, the board can make any exception to that policy that they want. So he came, he asked to speak, and they said no. He ended up being escorted outside by the police, which was totally embarrassing. Just ridiculous that they treated him like that. He went outside and actually prayed for the people inside, because he knows what's at stake here, and that is the ruination of our young people.
Okay, so Jane, by that logic of your colleagues on the board, if Governor Kehoe wanted to address the board, he doesn't live in your district. He should not be allowed to speak then, right?
That's exactly right, Mike. And they've turned away one other person that I know of. But yes, that's exactly right. But we could make the waiver, but they just didn't want to hear what he had to say. Pastor John has like 3 books that he evidently found out were in our library that I didn't know about, and wanted to talk about that, and they just wouldn't allow it.
Okay, so what he's addressing, and we've spoken with other members of school boards in other districts around the area here, they've been shocked to find when they got to the district, and there was actually one member who we really helped support this campaign, and she ended up getting elected, and she's not on the board anymore. But I remember getting a text from her, and basically it said, "Oh my gosh, Mike, it's worse than even we thought it was." So how real and how aggressive is the problem still? Because we talk about if there's a silver lining to all of the tyranny of the COVID shutdowns and all that kind of stuff, it's that parents and others learned what was actually happening in the K-12 public education system. And what's happening now, I think, is you've got the far left, which has been effectively using the K-12 public education system until people like you show up, and then all of a sudden they got a problem. And they're fighting like crazy to reclaim that momentum culturally and ideologically, and I'll say it doctrinally.
You're exactly right. Yes, and the silver lining is people are waking up, and that's our call to action, Mike. It really is. I happen to know a person who is involved in this fight with the libraries, and he has a list of books. There's 107 books on his list. He was so kind to send it to me. I checked our libraries, and guess what? 90% of these books are in our school libraries. 90%.
Now, let me ask the due diligence question. Are we just talking about leftist thinking and opinions we don't agree with? Or are we talking about over the top? Because I want a variety of viewpoints in a library by definition, but what is it that we're talking about content wise?
We're talking about everything. We're talking about incest. We're talking about rape. We're talking about perversion, all kinds of things. I recently found out that the book All Boys Aren't Blue is in our library. And if you want an eye opener, go to pages 199 to 206. That is the essence of what we are fighting for. It's homosexuality, it's rape, it's incest, it's everything that you don't need to know about at the age. And these are kids that are age 14 that are able to get their hands on this book. So we're talking about perversion, Mike, and being a nurse, I've done a little bit of research on this. If a child is exposed to pornography or age inappropriate books at a tender age and they can't understand what's really going on, there's a 99% more likely chance that as they grow older, they are going to participate in either pornography or aberrant sex. We don't need any more perverts in this world. And that's one of the motivations that I have for fighting this fight to stop that.
Or at the very least, taxpayers shouldn't be adding fuel to the fire, to use, Gabe's reference. I mean, we're talking about essentially the K-12 system grooming children for sexual purposes. And so we're not talking about censorship. Right. We're talking about active grooming. Where are we in this fight right now? In the last couple of minutes we're visiting with Jane Puszkar from the Francis Howell School Board, because the reality is you're still kind of outnumbered there. So when people think, oh, we won a couple races, we can worry about the next presidential race. These races are crucial, and they're coming up in April.
While we had the majority, we did do one good thing we did more than that. But the one good thing that we did do was we changed how books are challenged. As a parent, you can challenge a book in your kid's library. But the problem is that the people on the committee that accepted the challenge were the same ones buying the books. So there was no motivation there for them to take any book out of the library. And as a result, every book challenged stayed. That was then. We've now changed the composition of the committee. So hopefully we'll get some different eyes to look at these books and decide, maybe make some different decisions, because these kids really do deserve better.
All right. So where do we go from here then? I mean, obviously this is one school district in the area. I can't stress enough how important it is to get good, moral, ethical, conservative people running for the school boards, because for a long time we were just told, all right, conservatives, this isn't your turf, stay away, go ahead and fight in the state legislature, but this is ours. And they will fight like hell to try to reclaim that turf, because they know that we can have all the state legislatures we want, but if they are indoctrinating an entire generation at a time, eventually, the rules for radicals playbook wins.
You're absolutely right, Mike. And we have to get parents involved. School board members can only do so much without the parents. So I call to action for your parents. Get involved, find out what your kids are reading, find out what your kids are being taught in school, and figure out whether or not it's good for you and your kids.
Yep. All right, Jane, I'm going to bug you for updates in the future, okay?
You certainly may. Thank you, Mike, for the time.
You got it. We'll talk to you soon here. All right, just ahead here, behavior or race? You see the controversy around Carnival Cruise Lines?
I'm starting to see it.
Okay, so they implemented, apparently multiple reports say they're implementing these new rules, and there are a lot of people crying foul about this.
I'm sure I'm going to have something to say about it.
I'm going to tiptoe very gently into this.
I might go stomping through those
You're
tulips.
going to dive head first, yeah.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros, your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. We discovered Gutter Pros a few years ago when we bought our home and inherited a gutter issue that was on the road to becoming a potentially big problem, but thanks to Gutter Pros was stopped before causing any major damage. They've also repaired the siding on our home, because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros are also the best for siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros can help your home at gutterpros.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for the great Window World. Just over the last 20 years of Window World being in St. Louis, they've improved the look and thermal efficiency of more than 76,000 customers in St. Louis. Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now Window World is now offering 36 months, same as cash financing, with approved credit. Call them today at 314-993-1800, 314-993-1800.
Tim Jones here from my great friends at Comprehensive Chiropractic, the premier chiropractic and sports performance facility in the region. How do I know? Simply put, they've helped me on many occasions. Here's another solution to your everyday aches and pains. The Studio Health and Wellness Center. Services include Pilates and yoga, both with certified instructors. I can also highly recommend the massage therapy, which is not an indulgence. It's a proven method of healing and restoration. Trust my friends at Comprehensive Chiropractic in Eureka. CChiropractic.com. That's CChiropractic.com.
Hi, this is Jefferson County Councilman Billy Crow with a reminder to check out our new show, Jeffco Patriot Radio, this and every Sunday at high noon. Now, back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
On the Rumble chat box, Allison says, it's illegal to supply children with porn. Arrest these people. Unless you're a left-wing politician, then apparently it's legal.
Or an educator.
Right.
Or an academic.
If you're educating them, and by the way,
yeah,
I remember that not Jane, but a different school board member sending me some pictures.
Oh, yeah.
I think you were there when I got it.
Yeah.
And she said, this is what's in the library. And I looked up, I'm like, I got to get this off my phone.
Yeah. I saw it.
And they were cartoons.
Mm-hmm. I was looking over your shoulder. I was like, don't forward that to
me.
No.
And
get rid of it.
I'm like, but it was worse than what we're actually saying, because I can't go into full description as to what is probably in your child's K through 12 library. Don't for a minute say, oh, well, not my school.
No, definitely your school.
Francis Howell is not in a particularly left-wing area, okay? And the left still finds a way to get these things in there. All right, here's the big question. Is it about behavior or is it about race?
Yeah, and now this has surprised a lot of us and a lot of MAGA. The White House is officially claiming that there are no Epstein clients.
Yeah.
Just trust them, right? We've got the update about that at 8:04.
Yeah, this is really... honestly, it's disturbing. The more I think about it, the more disturbing that this is.
Yeah.
You want to take the air out of the tires of your movement? This is one way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So I've seen a bunch of these stories now on Carnival Cruise Lines.
I've seen some videos.
I've seen a lot of videos.
Holy crap.
Okay. So let's start with setting up the video. Says Carnival Cruise Lines has come up with a reputation as of late.
Yes. They've become okay. Think about this. Remember the last mall that closed in your area?
Yeah.
What it was like just prior to closing. Are you catching what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Roving bands of individuals catching beef with another roving bands of individuals, having a fight, stealing some stuff on their way out, getting in a scuffle with security, and then now, of course, take that. You can take the entire mall, by the way, and you put it on the ocean, and now you can't leave. You can't kick anybody out.
I mean, you can. It's just they go splash, and then you got to explain yourself.
And there's some problems.
And they don't want to do that.
Yeah, because I mean, it is international waters, but but yeah. So the worst mall you've been to just prior to its closing, but on the ocean.
Oh my goodness. All right. So Carnival Cruise Line has reportedly rolled out a sweeping set of new rules that they began enforcing apparently either last month or this month. And according to the article I'm reading, aimed to curb uncivilized behavior and reinforce its have fun, be safe motto.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Now, so what are these rules that people are finding so racist?
Okay. So let's see here. Curfew and youth supervision. Strict curfews for guests under the age of 18 are now being forced. Parents are being warned that unsupervised minors found in public areas after curfew may be confined to their cabins or even disembarked on the next port. Carnival has issued direct warning to parents, especially as summer brings more families onto their cruises.
See, that's what happens at the mall.
Yeah.
Remember? Is like, because it starts off as like, hey, it's a fun spot. And then parents are dropping their kids off. It's like, hey, go have fun. And then you just let the kids roam. They turn into the roving bands of individuals getting in beef. And then the curfews start. Then the no minors, no unaccompanied minors rules start.
Have you guys ever been on a cruise? I've never been on a cruise.
I've never been on one.
I haven't one.
No.
I've
wanted to go. But,
my understanding is that maritime law, the ship's captain is the boss.
They're basically a king.
They are essentially, they are absolutely a king. Okay, so the next one is, and this one I don't know why anybody would complain about, zero tolerance for violence and disruption. Let's talk about those videos that
yeah. I mean, brawls, absolute brawls. Just a whole bunch of people. Oh, for some reason, a whole bunch of ladies. And they're in their swim gear. Ladies in swimsuits pulling each other's hair. Look. If this was a different kind of video,
I was going to say there's a market for some of that, but
you could probably make money. But that's not this.
No,
this was just horrible, embarrassing stuff all the way around.
Right. And then here's another one: is that all forms of marijuana are now prohibited, even if it's legal where you live.
Okay.
Because apparently they'd gotten to the point where they're kind of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If not hurt anybody, let it go. But people were bringing all of their weed, and Carnival Cruise Lines was starting to smell like St. Louis.
Yes, I am all for that rule. Like, no, it's gross, it's disgusting, it smells bad, and everybody acts like a weirdo.
Yeah. Okay, so here's where they're claiming racism.
Okay, so those are the rules.
Those are rules so far.
Okay.
There's more rules.
All right,
that
but
they're now.
None of those rules have a race component.
Right. Now they're saying that you're not allowed to carry your portable speakers. Something.
Okay, yeah.
Because people apparently were walking around playing their music real loud and having their own little dance parties around everywhere. They're now banned because they're like, we play music.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be doing that.
Okay, that makes sense.
If you have headphones, that's fine, but just don't have a speaker.
Well, that's just like living in polite society. You don't share your stuff with everybody. Like if you're on a subway and you got your boombox going, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah. And also there are claims.
I said boombox. I just dated
you
myself.
did, yeah.
Badly.
Oh my goodness.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so here's the thing: is there's also the accusations that or claims that the DJs now are not taking requests, and they are reducing or eliminating like a hip hop,
certain songs,
songs,
all right,
rap, and that sort of thing.
Okay, I can see a complaint that way.
Yeah. So they're saying, well, that's racist, and basically Carnival is going, you guys aren't acting right, and
this is why we can't have nice things.
Let's talk about what we're talking about.
Yeah. We're the roving bands. You know what they look like. I mean, that's the sad aspect of it. And look, I am among the first to call out the embarrassment, because my dad, who was from the segregated South,
right?
Like I always have to couch this because people don't seem to catch this. When people grew up in segregation, like when real racism was a real thing, where it was institutionalized and there were very few interactions between the races because of segregation and things like that. One of the tenets was, when you're around, particularly when you're around white people, certainly when you're in public, but particularly when you're around white people, you're on your best behavior, because your behavior is representative of the entire race. Because there are so some of those white people will only interact with one black person in their life, and it might be you. And if you're catching crap, if you're doing all kinds of craziness, they're just going to ascribe that to every black person they see, and we can't have that. That's why there was like collective embarrassment when black people would show out like this.
Okay, so 5-second answer: thumbs up, thumbs down on Carnival trying to address this.
Thumbs up.
Okay,
do it more.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli, and my favorite sandwich from Capriati's is the Wagyu beef French dip. So good. It's the au jus that makes it. And the Wagyu beef is pretty good, too. I love Capriati's, and you will, too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
Jamie Ullman here with the refi and debt consolidation magician, Jordan Rosenblum. Google the bagel loan. Jordan, tell me about it.
Well, Jamie, with inflation high, credit card debts all-time highs, let's look at a cash-out refinance on your home. With our bagel loan, we're going to have no title fees. We're going to have no lender fees, no appraisal fees. This will help your overall cash flow mightily. It's the time to do it. Jump on now while you can. We can always refinance when rates drop. Bagel loan all day.
314-442-9570 or Google the bagel loan.
NMLS number 226715.
Looking for excitement, fun, and delicious food for the whole family? Piccadilly Parwan has it all. Savor our scratch-made dishes. Nothing frozen. Every bite a true delight. Roll into fun at Piccadilly Palace for roller skating, or race your heart out at Piccadilly Kart Racing. Join us for happy hour Monday through Friday, 4 till 6. Free select appetizers and drink specials. And don't miss our mouth-watering Sunday family dinners. Piccadilly Parwan on Audrey Lane in Union, Missouri, or online at PiccadillyPar1.com.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go, and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
You talk about race relations.
This conversation has completely made me crazy.
This is complete insanity.
And I'm sick and tired of it.
1019 and 94.1.
I find it to be a conversation starter.
News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour at townhall.com. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. President Trump says the U.S. will have to increase military supplies to Ukraine, prompted by an uptick in Russian attacks.
President Trump said Monday night,
we're going to send some more weapons. We have to.
Russia has intensified its airstrikes on civilian areas of Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky saying in the past week, Russia's launched more than 1,200 drones, 39 missiles, and almost 1,000 powerful glide bombs. Ben Thomas, Washington.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is telling President Trump he's nominating him for a Nobel Peace Prize. The two took a victory lap last night at the White House after the recent joint strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities. Senator Tom Cotton says, make no mistake about it, despite what you hear from some critics, those attacks obliterated Iran's nuclear capacity.
You see so many people like, say, David Albright, a former weapons inspector in Iran, is widely respected, or Norm Rule, who was the national intelligence manager for Iran at the director of National Intelligence Office under Barack Obama, saying things like, catastrophic damage or effectively destroyed.
And the next goal for both Israel and the U.S. will be ending the war in Gaza. Former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Dr. Michael Oren, says the Hamas terrorist group believes it is in a position to extract major concessions from Israel.
The way they look at it is they have these assets, these hostages, and as long as they hold the hostages, Israel can't take over the entire Gaza Strip because we send their army into the area where they're holding the hostages. So that's their very, very big advantage.
Oren was interviewed by the Salem radio network. The Israeli military says 5 of its soldiers were killed in an attack in northern Gaza. Health officials in the Palestinian territory says Hamas continues to put civilians in harm's way. Some of them have been killed as well. On Wall Street, Dow futures down 63 points. More from townhall.com.
If you're living with pain, see how Relief Factor can help.
My back got injured very bad. I was off work for about a year. I heard about Relief Factor from my wife. I took it every day, 3 times a day for 3 weeks. Looked at her and I said, the pain is gone. And she said, I'm glad it helped. I said, no, you don't understand. It's gone.
Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor. Go to relieffactor.com and get your 3-week quick start today. Only $19.95.
When you bundle renters and auto with Progressive, you can save while protecting your most valuable possessions, like your priceless vinyl collection. Sure, you sleep on a futon because the money most people would have spent on a bed you spent on more records. But forget the fact that you can stream just about any song ever created for a few dollars a month. No, you need to listen to music in the most difficult way possible. So go ahead and get Progressive so you can save while protecting the things that matter to you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Scattered rain and thunderstorms developing today, and a few of these storms could be strong to severe with some wind gusts and the potential for some localized flooding. As for timing, well, some rain possible this morning, but storms more likely this afternoon and evening. Prime time from shortly afternoon till about 9 o'clock tonight. A warm and humid day otherwise with a high near 90. The rain shuts down quickly tonight down to 72 for the low, and then partly sunny tomorrow, a high of 88. Maybe a storm or two around tomorrow, but not as widespread as today. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
Why leave your company's story to chance? In today's digital world, video content isn't just an option. It's essential for your success. At Blue Ocean Media Group, we've spent decades crafting compelling visual stories for businesses just like yours. From concept to completion, our award-winning team transforms your vision into powerful video content that connects with your audience and drives results. Don't trust your brand to amateurs. Partner with Blue Ocean Media Group. Visit blueoceanmediagroup.com today, and let's bring your story to life.
Mike Ferguson.
This is the kind of adventure I usually have to force upon us, and here it is, falling into our laps.
Gabe Phifer.
They're buying it.
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm? Get up, St. Louis.
Watch a couple squats, son.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL. Get up! Get up! This is your cousin.
All right, we went from, well, maybe it's just a left-leaning news outlet going after the Trump administration and trying to sow discord, to the White House saying, no, that's right. They got the story right.
Yikes.
This is not going over well.
No.
And I'm talking about like on the right and in the MAGA movement.
Oh, yeah, for anybody.
Yeah, this is not going over well. So we got the update on the current administration basically buying into the narrative that they had been fighting for years, literally years on this. And also St. Louis prepares to say goodbye to a first responder starting today. And the violent left stepping up their war, and I mean like warfare as in violence, against law enforcement. It is 8:06 right now. Let's go and dump some news on you here.
Successful dump. Wake up, America. It all worked out.
They got all the news.
The morning news dump.
Okay, so before I get into this, the White House statement on the whole Epstein, no, there is no client list type of thing. I got to tell you, it was fascinating, Gabe, for me to look at the reaction, not just on social media, but also on a lot of broadcast conservative media and streaming conservative media, where there was no falling into line. Whereas on many issues, I think people have abandoned a lot of their previously stronghold conservatism in favor of, okay, but I like what this administration is doing. I'm going to leave that behind.
We got to circle the wagons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that here.
No, not on this one.
Yeah.
And I think the reaction we've been seeing is the correct one.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Because look, there were clients. We
had to be.
We know there were clients.
Yeah.
And this wasn't a fly-by-night operation. Now they flew at night, but they had lists of people who flew on the plane for sure. They had testimony from individuals who were victimized as to when and where and how they were victimized. Why can't we just draw from correlation? These people are suspected, at the very least, of being clients.
The White House officially doubles down on the story here. The Justice Department releasing a memo concluding, in their words, concluding that Jeffrey Epstein did not have clients for the sex trafficking.
Right. There was no
We've
list.
confirmed that there are victims. At least one person's been convicted of trafficking, but apparently there was nobody to whom the victims were trafficked.
It's so
Can somebody try to make sense of that?
It doesn't make any sense.
Speaking to reporters, though, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, and I'll just say it, this is gaslighting, praising the memo and saying the Trump administration is committed to government transparency.
They put out a memo in conclusion of that review. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate for public consumption. But they committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did, and they provided the results of that.
No, they provided a memo.
Yeah, and
I want here's the thing. You want full transparency? I want court transcripts.
Yeah.
I mean, you can redact. I mean, we've seen redacted documents from the government.
Names, absolutely.
Redact the victim names, redact whatever graphic details that are unnecessary. You can put in a summary. You can erase it completely, put in a little summary, insert, graphic details of assault here. But the name should be there. It's like, I was trafficked by Ghislaine Maxwell. She flew me to Epstein's Island. I was assaulted by
XYZ, whoever it is. And that's the thing, though. But what they're saying now is, nope, there was nobody who they don't exist. There are no. So this tells me that whoever it is who were the buyers, and I hate to put them in that cold, hard terms, but we're talking about buying
people,
the use of people. So the people who bought, because we know what happened.
Right.
Apparently they don't exist according to this. And we're being told, just move along. There's nothing here. None of that makes any sense, but that tells me that whoever was doing the buying is so powerful,
right,
that both parties and both sides now are saying, we're going to cover it up and we're going to move on. And I think that in a lot of ways on the right, the people who are at the top right now are accustomed to just telling the followers, okay, get in line and support us. And on this particular thing, a significant number of people went, no. This doesn't make sense. This has nothing to do with what we think of the other policies where I think they're getting things right. But now I want to know even more.
Yes.
Who's named.
The most charitable interpretation of why they won't release any of these names is that having this information is valuable to the United States on some level. Like maybe it's leverage over foreign leaders. Maybe it's some sort of assets that we have embedded in various things, or some. Maybe there's some value. That's the most charitable way of looking at this, is that there's a government secret that they still need to keep for some positive, gigantic air quotes, reason for America. Now the most realistic, probably the most likely explanation to this is that there are high-ranking people. There are very important people to both parties, to all sides, very powerful, very rich people who they can't afford to smear.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah, And this statement here, there is zero way that you can get to this as a logical conclusion. Zero.
Even if they said we have the names, but we can't release it because of reasons.
Yes.
It would feel still crappy. It would feel very,
but you know what would happen?
I would be okay with, I would be better with it.
See, that's the thing is, what would happen in that case
Mm-hmm.
is you would have then the left throw a fit.
Yes.
What are you hiding? And the right and particularly the MAGA movement who would say, you know what? I trust him.
Right.
And I'm fine with
That's probably what would have happened.
That's what would have happened.
If they said, we have the names, but there's a reason.
Yeah.
I swear to you, there's a reason we can't say, and we can't say what the reason is, but I promise you, we know who they are. We're monitoring them, but we can't tell you who they are. If they said that, I would have, it would be less of an affront to my my mental capacity here.
At least tell us what was up with that weird temple that was there. I mean, what was that for? Why was that there? Why is it just like, give us something?
Give us something.
But to say, no, it doesn't exist, move on.
It's fine. It's fine.
And I think that
trust us, guys.
I think the administration is right now going, what the heck? People typically do what we tell them to do. They're not doing that right now. They're thinking independently.
This was a miscalculation.
This was a big one. And it was a matter of integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And my worry is that this is going to put other unrelated things that he's doing right at risk.
Yes, absolutely. I think once you open the door to us questioning your judgment on things that you sold us as being a big part of what your administration was going to do, now we're skeptical of all of it.
Yeah, exactly. All right. The tragedy in Central Texas right now. Search and rescue teams continue hoping to find victims of flash flooding still alive in parts of Texas. Over 100 people. The last count I saw was 104 people confirmed dead. Kelly Raybon was on Fox News Channel's Fox News at Night. One of her sons was at Camp La Junta, which is less than 6 miles away from Camp Mystic. And Camp Mystic, of course, is the one that took the biggest direct hit from those floodings, talking about her son being in a cabin when it flooded.
He ended up in the rafters of his bunk. And this is a kid who just graduated kindergarten. So it's terrifying.
Camp Mystic itself has already reported at least 27 children and counselors were caught up and killed by that flood. My fear is that number is going to keep going up. So, but again, when you see a number, remember that every single one of these is a human being.
Yeah,
that's being discussed right there. Visitation services for a fallen St. Louis City firefighter start this afternoon. Lee Krause died July 1st. He suffered a medical emergency while on duty a few days before. The visitation happens starting at 3:00 at the Hoffmeister Colonial Mortuary. Memorial service is planned for tomorrow morning at the same location. Firefighter Krause was 52 years old. And you're going to see flags at half staff throughout the city of St. Louis tomorrow, and those are in his honor. Okay, you heard about this attack on law enforcement targeting ICE officials earlier this week, right? Okay, so the Trump administration, along with Republicans, say, yeah, we know what's going on with these violent protests against ICE and the instances of violent attacks, in particular against immigration enforcement, like the one that happened at that Border Patrol facility in Texas on Monday. Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Stephen Miller had some pretty pointed words when he was on Jesse Waters' primetime on Fox.
There is an insurrectionist movement in the Democratic Party that is inspiring domestic terrorism against ICE.
A 27-year-old man was killed after opening fire at that Border Patrol facility in McAllen, Texas. A McAllen police officer was also injured in this attack, and it looks like it was a coordinated. They were dressed in kind of black bloc style and stuff. So what's happened here is that the left has stepped up their warfare, and they are taking this to an actual, literal, militant level. I don't know if this is going to be a one-off and they were testing the waters, or whether or not this is something that they're going to, we're going to see more of. We're going to find out here. But I will tell you this, leftist, you think you want to go toe to toe with immigration enforcement or the right at an armed level? You don't want to do that. We don't want to do that.
Right.
Nobody wants that to happen, but I guarantee you this, you're going to lose.
Yeah, seriously. We've been moving in this direction for a while now, and I really hope that this isn't, leading up to the instance where it really kicks off. You know what I mean? Because it'll be short-lived, but it's going to be brutal and it's going to be bad for the country
It's going to
overall.
be very bad. All right, the Cardinals back at home tonight, starting a series with the Nationals at Busch Stadium. 6:45 first pitch. FanDuel has that game.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
You know, they had the Muslim ban. There is no white guy ban. So what do we do about that?
On News Talk STL.
Destination, making cold mine to fight your war. Stop it right now.
Hi, Kirk Hilsinger here, and I'm the new chairman of the St. Louis Republican Central Committee. I invite you to our meetings that take place the first Thursday of every month at 3710 Hampton Avenue. You can stay connected with us to learn more about how you can get involved, make your voice heard, and contribute to our shared goals. Together, we can make a difference in the city of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. For more info, visit our new website at stl-gop.com. That's stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you're testing your blood sugar 4 or more times per day, injecting insulin 3 or more times per day, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetic Health Hotline today.
800-515-2380. That's 800-515-2380. Paid for by U.S. Med.
Hi, I'm Rodney Wallner.
And I'm Jen Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Jen, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission plan?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What's the best time to sell your home?
Right now, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
The tides are changing.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
The Democratic Party doesn't stand with what I stand for.
News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL.
All right. We've talked about the K through 12 cesspit that is education in this public education in this country. But then we wonder why things are so bad at the academy level. We're talking about higher education level. And don't think for a minute that your local community college is any better. They're not.
No, not at all.
But there was a conference in Chicago, National Socialist Convention or Socialist Conference, and one particular professor, wearing his keffiyeh and everything, gave his utopian vision for what campuses should be. And one of the things that he's demanding and claiming really, I think, even surprised the nutcases at this conference.
Absolutely. Now, we love that our station-sponsored events are a cut above, and our next one is absolutely something you'll want to attend. We're making that announcement Thursday at 8:05. Make sure you're with us so you can be the first to get your tickets.
And I just told Gabe a little bit ago what it is.
Shocking.
Big deal.
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
Kind of a big deal.
It's a big deal. It's going to be fun.
Many leather-bound books.
I was not told. I'm still in the dark.
oh, really? You don't know either?
You weren't in the room when...
Oh, you walked over and you whispered it to him. And
I mean, yesterday when Jeff told me, were you not in the room?
No.
Oh, okay.
So he doesn't know either.
No.
No, I'm not in the Cool Kids Club.
I will tell you in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you knew. I'm sorry. I thought you knew. All right. So this professor, David McNally, is a history professor at the University of Houston.
Not related to the McNally of Rand McNally.
No, not. He doesn't make maps.
Yeah.
Unless you talk about a cultural map to the pits of hell.
Yeah.
So he got his keffiyeh, his white guy keffiyeh, and went to Chicago to the Socialist Convention and was laying out his vision for here's how we can use the universities for a social insurgency. And let me pick this up about halfway through.
All right.
And here's part of what he said in Chicago.
So keep in mind, he's in Commie Central right now.
Yes,
he's in Commie.
yes.
He's surrounded by his commie brethren.
Right.
And they're having a little vision party.
Okay, so I'm just going to pick this up midway through here.
From climate destroying.
Oh, let me go back just a hair to put that in context.
We would fight for and win Sanctuary Campus. ICE would be gone. It would have no capacity to enter the campus space at all.
So a law enforcement, body would not be able to enter a public campus. Think about that.
That's the thing. So many of these academics, they look at a campus as holy, sacred ground and
somehow
them as being deities above the rest of us.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. Okay. Here's more of what he had to say.
Secondly, we would push for and win divestment from apartheid and militarism.
That's a way of saying Israel and the Jewish state. That's all it is.
He's like,
and he's wearing a keffiyeh at the time he's saying this.
We would take money from the Jews.
Yes.
From climate destroying investments. We would replace the campus police.
This is great.
With democratically constituted and elected safety committees.
Okay. So you're going to call the safety committee.
Yes.
Sarah, who majors in women's studies, ran
with a Y.
Sarah with a Y.
Yes, with a Y.
with women with a Y. Yes. She majors in women's studies, and she's going to be elected to the campus safety board.
Yes.
So when the fight breaks out between the two drunk football bros, in the middle of the quad, and you're like, we need security to come out here. Let's bring out Sarah.
That's right.
She won 80% of her vote.
And she's going to say, you know what? Joe is oppressed. And
which one's losing? They're the oppressed.
Yes, exactly. Oh, geez. Okay. It can't get any dumber than this, though, right?
That's quite dumb.
Okay. Well, maybe it can.
We would restore and massively resource the eliminated LGBTQ plus center.
Okay, that's kind of par for the course.
Yes, like, hey,
then whatever.
We got to get a rainbow building up.
We would fight to abolish tuition and grades. Okay?
Wait. Tuition and grades. Okay. Go to college. Think about going to college with no tuition. Hey, that sounds nice, except for the inflation. And
the fact that I got to pay for your ass.
And no grades.
Yeah.
So I'm going to learn something, but maybe not because there's no way to test it.
Well, I mean, socialism is the opposite of meritocracy.
Right.
And this is truly an implementation of Marxist thought, without a doubt. Did you notice there were a couple of people who laughed at it.
They laughed
even
at
at the socialist.
Yeah, they were like, wow, now maybe it was wow, what a world, no grades.
Yeah, really. Oh my
or maybe it's the type of laugh you get when the kid running for student body president says he's going to get chocolate fountains in the hallways.
That's right. Yeah. Vote for that guy.
Yeah.
All right.
We would try to develop forms of worker self-management because we don't need managers.
Woo.
We would we would open the university up in such a way that it becomes a resource of the broader community.
Okay, brace yourselves, guys. Everybody brace yourself. If you missed this earlier, here's what he means by that. And he actually thinks he's being serious.
Okay.
He thinks he's an intellectual.
And I can tell you with great confidence that in the 3rd Ward of Houston, that means we will be renamed the George Floyd University. For those of you who don't know, George Floyd grew up in Houston's 3rd Ward, and he went to high school about half to 3/4 of a mile from our campus.
He is demanding they rename the University of Houston, which won a national championship in something not that long. I mean, so this is a major Division I public university. We're going to rename it George Floyd University.
I love the fact that that crowd of that reluctant, like, what? Because I know for a fact when he came up with that line, he was expecting
applause.
Applause.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm gonna found the Center for the Study of Fentanyl myself.
Hey, maybe they'll have an amazing chemistry
Yeah, I'm
program.
saying, yeah. I mean, the degree in Breaking Bad program.
It was like, are you sure about that?
Are you sure about that? Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is like, there's some I've heard in these, just observing them, like watching wild animals. It's like sometimes they do the as a sort of, oh yes, I see what you're saying. It's the equivalent to, I have no idea what you're intending with that, but I'm going to make a noise of sort of assent and understanding. Like that's kind of part of what I was hearing in there. But also, like what Jerome was saying is like, not really sure what to how to respond.
There are cameras and there's a thing called social media, right?
So I'm gonna make a noise that vaguely sounds as though like I assent to this, but I'm not really sure if I'm catching your drift there. Yeah, he's like, no, that's not a joke.
No, he was serious.
George Floyd. And like Jerome said, he was expecting applause.
So here's
absolutely
this guy. This is the type of person who's teaching your kids.
Yes.
So you've got to make sure that you don't send your kids with a brain full of mush to be shaped by people like this. I am convinced now there are productive academics who do good things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think for the most part, like for instance, when Trump's talking about defunding a bunch of higher education, this is why I'm okay with that.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
This is what it's become. Because for the most part, these are people who, if it were not for the academy and the university setting, they would not have any skills that anybody else would hire and pay for because they have nothing to offer society.
Now, there is a point to be made about potentially how we handle student loans and the people that they're targeted to. That being said, whatever that school's charging in tuition, it needs to be doubled.
Yeah.
They need to take every cent they possibly can from you. If you listen to that and you still want to send your kid to that school, that's ridiculous.
A fool and their money shall soon be parted.
Yep.
Now my fix for public education, by the way, or for I should say higher education, by the way, would be to get government completely out of the loan business. Just make student loans private again.
Yep.
Because
they were my first couple years of college.
Right. So you had to apply to a bank, and the bank had to look over your application, which included what the university you wanted to go to or the school you wanted to go to and what you wanted to major in, right? And
the likelihood that you were going to make a good living with it.
Yes, exactly. So they could evaluate it with their, do the number crunch things like, am I going to make any money off of this person? Right now they don't have to think about that. The government is going to pay me.
I don't know how, Gabe, but I'm pretty sure that's racist what you just said. I don't know how or why, but I think that's oppressive.
Yes.
I don't know. Somebody explain to me later, but I'm sure that's oppressive.
No, that's absolutely oppressive. And I think some people should be oppressed. I'll say it that way. Some of you idiot MFers need to be oppressed by our society because you have way too much influence, way too much power, and you spend way too much of our money for us to let you get away with it anymore.
Heck yeah, brother.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, I mean, but here's the thing is, why is this guy not worried about saying something so stupid?
Yeah, in public.
Because he's in the academy, because he's in this institution where, listen, you should have the right to say whatever you want, but he doesn't have to worry about an employer going, yeah, so the public's paying your salary and they don't want to pay your salary anymore.
Right.
There's zero accountability. And somehow we need to make sure there is academic freedom, but that comes with accountability for when your ideas are challenged, and taxpayers should not be forced to fund whatever your lifestyle is.
Imagine I had the ideas like, you know what? I think our rockets should be free. I think people should be able to use the rockets that our company produces to send whatever they want into space. And there should be zero criteria to oppress them from having the free access to space that belongs to us all. It's the sky. We must democratize the sky.
That's right.
And you know what my manager was saying? You know what the company head was like? You want us to give it away for free?
Right. Yeah.
To everybody, regardless of.
Check your privilege, boss.
Yeah, you can check your privilege outside the building because we're going to take your badge. You're fired.
Right. You're done.
You're done.
Oh, but this guy doesn't have to worry about being fired.
He doesn't have to worry about it.
In the academic community, they look at people like this and say, well, these are thought leaders. And you know what? They're not.
No,
they're not.
At all.
All right, just ahead. Let's try this again. Shall we? We tried to have that conversation on yesterday's program about now that the mega bill is signed into law, how do we take the good maximize it while trying to deal with the bad that's in it. We'll chat with our friends from National Taxpayers Union about that right around 8:34.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Scattered rain and thunderstorms developing today, and a few of these storms could be strong to severe with some wind gusts and the potential for some localized flooding. As for timing, well, some rain possible this morning, but storms more likely this afternoon and evening. Prime time from shortly afternoon till about 9 o'clock tonight. A warm and humid day otherwise with a high near 90. The rain shuts down quickly tonight down to 72 for the low, and then partly sunny tomorrow, a high of 88. Maybe a storm or two around tomorrow, but not as widespread as today. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Pat Shane.
Fox News commentary.
The New York City Democratic Socialist mayor frontrunner is in hot water for checking a very interesting box. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Sponsored by AxeCap Ventures. America, listen up. Gold prices are breaking records. With inflation raging and central banks hoarding, every American should own gold. And like President Trump said, whoever holds the gold makes the rules. AxeCap Ventures owns one of Nevada's largest undeveloped gold deposits and trades for pennies on the dollar. This could be your way to ride the gold boom. AxeCap trades under GARLF on the OTC. Visit axecapventures.ca today.
Elizabeth Warren walked so Zohran Mamdani could run. He's in the hot seat for checking both Asian and Black or African American on his 2009 application to Columbia University. Mamdani claims he checked those boxes because being from Uganda with Indian heritage, there wasn't another box he felt matched his racial identity. He insists he didn't check those boxes to gain an advantage in the admissions process, though many on social media find it a little suspicious. But more importantly, this harkens back to one of the reasons we must eliminate DEI from the college and job application process. It should be about merit. Furthermore, it's the left that's obsessed with race and also cultural appropriation. So it stands to reason some aren't happy he conveniently identified as Black, though he's clearly not. I don't really care what box he checked on a college application. I am far more concerned that he's a radical with communist ideas. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for my good friend Harry Parker and the ultimate seafood dining experience at Gulf Shores, GulfShoresRestaurantandGrill.com. Gulf Shores offering a unique dining experience with a vast, mouth-watering menu of all of your favorite delicious dishes, something for everyone's taste or palate. 3 convenient locations, Edwardville, Creve Coeur, and St. Peter's. Dine in, carry out. They've got a food truck, too. Friendly staff looking forward to seeing you, making your dining experience one you will remember. Gulf Shores Restaurantandgrill.com.
NewsTalkSTL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 2 times every weekend on NewsTalkSTL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. You could also reach Doug at 844-6766. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Hey, News Talk STL listeners, this is Levi, CEO of Reach Reproductive Health. There was a huge gap left when the biggest pregnancy center in St. Louis had to close their doors right after Amendment 3. But by God's grace and power, Reach has been able to step into that space. We have acquired Thrive centers and are continuing operations in greater St. Louis. I have a request for you. Would you pray and consider getting to know Reach more? We are here to see babies saved and families transformed by the power of Christ. Get to know us on our Reach community website, outreachforlife.org. That's outreachforlife.org.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Download the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
Love the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
On my way to work in the morning.
Usually I'm in the car.
I listen on the app in my car every morning going to work.
Download the NewsTalk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
Hey, Chris Arp from the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show. Make sure that you're listening to our show this afternoon from 4 to 6. Now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
All right, so let's finish that discussion we started before. We've named him Soros. Soros, our resident gremlin, decided to knock us off the air on Monday.
Yeah, I managed to fight him off, though, folks. And by the way, if you are looking forward to this conversation, but you cannot stay for it, we do have an amazing variety of podcasts that you can check out. on Omni Studio, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the official News Talk STL website. So check us out, and you can hear this upcoming interview after the show.
And also, you may have some friends or family that just need to hear the information. You can share that with them. It is 8:35 right now. Joined once again by Tommy Aiello from the National Taxpayers Union. And Tommy, appreciate you coming back on the program here. So let me sort of reset where we were at. Obviously, over the holiday weekend, the president signs in what he calls the big, beautiful bill. Let's just call it a mega bill, spending and taxation and some policy stuff in there. There were some things in there that are absolutely fantastic. There are some things in there that are fine. There's some things in there that are not so great. And there's some things in there that are just downright ugly and just really bad. But it's all one package. And I don't like the tactic of doing it that way, but it is what it is. That's what we have to deal with. So then it comes down to, are we just stuck with the bad stuff and we have to eat it? Or can we still address the bad parts of this bill while maximizing the benefits of the good stuff, like making those tax cuts permanent that went into effect during his first term?
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me back on. I'm glad everything got straightened out yesterday. So, just to put a finer point on that, right? Really good that we avoid a $4.5 trillion tax increase at the end of the year. Really good that we lock in the TCJA and make permanent a lot of the really important pro-growth provisions from that law. Not great are some of these carve-out for individual taxpayers that add complexity to the code. Fine that we phase out the Inflation Reduction Act and Green New Scam things. Could be quicker, but we start to phase it out, which is good. And then, of course, not great. We not only reduced revenues by $5 trillion, but we saved government spending about $1.3 trillion. It adds about $3.8 trillion to the national debt. So yes, we definitely need to address all of those things. I'm really hopeful that there could be another reconciliation package this year, which would do a lot of those structural spending reforms. But we need to do something because we're going to be spending $84 trillion over the next 10 years, and the bill is going to come due, and it's going to make this $5 trillion tax bill really look like a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about reducing, $5 trillion, or we, as far as revenue goes, I'm fine with that. But logic tells you have to reduce your spending by $5 trillion and $1 to make that work. And so it's one thing to say government's going to take in less money. I'm all for that. But we've got that roadblock. We've got that mental block, that political block that stops Congress from continuing to spend money. One of the biggest mistakes, it seems to me, is that this bill includes an increase in the debt ceiling, which makes me question how serious that the government is right now when it comes to trying to be fiscally responsible.
Yes. So right now in Washington, it's something called appropriations season. Even though it is 100 degrees outside, they still need to find a way to fund the government over the next 12 months. And that process will go from now up until about September when the fiscal year ends. And then there might be a government shutdown, right? That's what we hear every year, that the potential for a government shutdown. So the House already passed one appropriations bill. It spends more money than last year, about $5 billion more. It's not a lot of money, but it just continues the same process that we're just going to spend more each year, put a lot of our government on autopilot. What we need to do, and this is something the National Taxpayers Union is calling for, is we passed the one big, beautiful bill. We needed to do it. We need to change some of the parts of it on its own. But in addition to all of that, we need to continue to pass the rescissions packages. The White House wants to send more to save more money. We need to return to pre-COVID-19 spending levels. We need to pretend like it's 2019 again, and we can cut spending by $1 trillion a year. That is a lot of money. And we need to have a fiscal commission that can find ways to increase the efficiency of the government and find ways to save money, right? Elon, through his Doge, they found a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. With a fiscal commission, they can have outside experts determine what is working, what is not working, and how we structurally reform our federal budget. So we're not going to be spending $84 trillion over the next 10 years.
What should be the target of future rescission bills? We spoke with Congressman Bob Onder a little bit earlier this week, and he actually is backing up what you're saying, is that those are likely on the way, probably one in a reconciliation bill, if not more rescission bills in the fall, and maybe another one in the spring is what his understanding is. So where should those targets be when it comes to forcing fiscal responsibility? Because I just don't think, Tommy, the people understand eventually this bill is going to come due. We're so used to kicking the can down the road that we think this is just numbers on a spreadsheet and it doesn't actually affect us. But we are at some point going to hit that cliff.
And it's going to be really bad when we hit that cliff. And look, I think you can fix your house's roof when the sun is shining. We see storm clouds over the horizon. We need to fix the roof as soon as possible. And I think there's a number of ways to do that, right? You can raise taxes. This administration has said they don't want to raise taxes unless it's on tariffs. Tariffs are taxes, and we're bringing revenue in that way. Ideally, we will eliminate the tariffs, and we will not bring that revenue in, but we can, raise taxes on individuals, small businesses, corporations. None of those things are ideal, right? You take those off the table, and you have spending changes. You can only really cut about 25% of the federal budget because you have 75% of the budget on autopilot. That's your Social Security, your Medicaid, and Medicare, right? Social Security, and I don't know, I'm sure you've talked about this, but people are going to receive a 23% cut to their benefits by 2031 now. That's only 6 years away if nothing changes. So you can see these storm clouds on the horizon. We need to make the changes today as soon as possible. So not only can people keep their Social Security, but we can, get our fiscal house in order, restore some fiscal sanity to this city. Otherwise, you're going to have persistent high inflation. We called out President Biden for 4 years for spending $4 trillion, $5 trillion, whatever it was. All of that reckless spending fueled inflation. We're going to have the same situation over the next couple of years. So what we need to do is not only, have this sugar high of growth that is going to come from this tax and spending bill, but we're going to have continued high inflation because our whole government is on autopilot. So unless something changes, people are still going to feel high prices, and things are only going to get worse over the next couple of years when that bill comes due. You're going to have to either pay more in taxes or receive a substantial cut to your government benefits. And, I think there's a path forward where you can keep taxes low and keep benefits somewhat the same if people want that. Obviously, that's not ideal from our perspective, but we have to remember we need Democrats to come to the dance with us. If Republicans are doing this on our own, we're probably not going to get there. It needs to be bipartisan at the end of the day. And unfortunately, neither party in Congress has the appetite to really want to do anything. So we're really stuck between a rock and a hard place. There are storm clouds coming, and God forbid that there is another unforeseen economic calamity or health crisis. We're going to be under a lot of pressure to spend even more. So that trend line of government spending is only going to increase, not decrease.
All right. And you've written op-eds on this. You can find those on your website. How do people get in touch, follow you on social media, things like that? Because this is the type of stuff where it gets wonky. People listen to talking points instead of at least looking at the summaries. And that's one of the things you guys are particularly strong about, is saying, okay, here's what it all means, boils it down to, by the way, if you want to jump into the jungle and all the weeds, and here are the links to it, but here's what it actually means.
So our website is ntu.org, and we certainly do a lot on fiscal policy and tax policy, but we do so much more. We do stuff on healthcare, energy, infrastructure, really anything that has a taxpayer impact. And I think everything has a taxpayer impact, so we really do it all.
Yeah, and eventually some of those taxes, by the way, are felt in just the ways that things cost more money. And that's like when you referenced, I think what you were referencing, you're talking about tariffs are taxes. We end up paying them. They're always a tax on us. They get rolled down to us. So that's why this is crucial. We deal with it now. So Tommy Aiello, National Taxpayers Union, appreciate the insight.
Thank you.
All right. 314-912-1019. We survived the gremlin on that one. So
yes,
you clubbed Soros the gremlin, and so he stayed away.
No, stay out.
That's right.
16, I found my dream machine. Tony Colombo here for All Solutions Pest Control, the team Christine and I trust to protect our home. We've used multiple services at multiple homes over the years, and I can tell you from all that experience, All Solutions is second to none. If you have a pest problem of any kind, or more importantly, just want to prevent a problem, All Solutions is the team to call. Learn more and take advantage of their incredible $67 introductory offer right now at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Hey folks, Jamie Allman here. Exciting things are happening at the Hideout in High Ridge. Famous for the Sunset Patio, 4 big screen TVs, live music and events, and of course, the wings. The Hideout now has a brand new menu featuring handcrafted burgers and new items like their signature sunset dip and Dave's Chili. And now a second location, the Hideout at Sugar Creek Golf Course in High Ridge, featuring great event space. You can stop by for lunch or dinner. The new 2025 Hideout and the new Hideout at Sugar Creek Golf Course. We'll see you there.
Think you know your facts? Put your knowledge to the test at the St. Louis Young Republicans Trivia Night. Join us Friday, July 25th at the St. Louis County GOP headquarters in Fenton for an evening of fun facts and fantastic company. Meet fellow conservatives while competing for great prizes. Doors at 5:45, trivia at 6:30. Reserve your table and get tickets now at stlyrs.com. BethSTLYRS.com. Presented by NewsTalk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The Brentwood Parks Department killed a bunch of nuisance geese, but may have lied about donating the meat. David Stokes joins us at 4:20 to fill us in on how high up this controversy goes.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Vic Borselli.
And Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Hey, Vic.
Ken and I are on every Monday through Friday here on News Talk STL. Right now, you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Whoosh, my morning, people.
Okay, so quick note. We just heard that promo from Chris Arps about Brentwood dealing with this geese issue. I know which story he's talking about, so they're going to have more details in the update. It's really kind of weird and fascinating. But my rule of thumb, Jerome, is that when somebody gets into a conflict with geese, I am going to side against the geese every time because they're vermin and they're a-holes.
Yes. And I mean, I love animals. I love wildlife.
Yeah, but not them.
Geese are like nature's terrorists almost.
Yes. You're looking at basically these aggressive cobra chickens. And basically when I say I love animals, just understand that I'm putting an asterisk except geese.
Now, is there a way we can train the other animals to conspire against the geese and kick them out on our behalf?
Right. Because we're not allowed to because they're federally protected.
Yeah.
Which frankly has gone to their head. They're makes them really arrogant.
Yeah.
They're jerks. All right. Anyway, 8:48 right now. So we know the cliches here, and we're looking at the tragedies that are happening in Central Texas right now with this flooding. It brings out the best in people. It brings out the worst in people. This is the latest example. But here's the thing: is how bad does the hateful part of your thinking, and I'm talking specifically with a lot of the ideology on the left that we've been talking about throughout the morning here. How hateful does it have to be? That part of you have to be to make somebody say, well, your lives aren't that important because you don't fit my narrative and my ideology. And you don't fit what I want in humanity.
Yeah. Now, we know some of you are on your way to your 9-to-5 job, and you might not be able to stay in your car for your radio. So if you have the amazing News Talk STL app, you can actually bring all of your favorite shows with you and then just, hide an earbud into your ear so your boss doesn't see you while you listen and stay up to date.
That's right. We are sowing discord in the workplace since 2021. Okay. All right. So how can somebody become so ideologically driven that they value their own hatred over the lives of children? And then the follow-up question is that how have we gotten to the point where that type of person is so confident and feels safe from consequences enough to just openly discount the lives of people because of unrelated differences to what's happening because of factors like skin color.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what happened is she's a public figure because she's appointed to some commission down in the city of Houston. Her name's Sade Perkins, Sade. I know that there was a singer in the 80s by the name of Sade that spells it that way. I think it's, I'm hearing people call her Sade. So Sade Perkins goes on social media and does this rant. Here's just the first part of her rant.
I know I'm probably going to get canceled for this, but Camp Mystic is a whites only girls Christian camp. They don't even have a token Asian. They don't have a token black person. It is a all white only conservative Christian camp. If you ain't white, you ain't right. You ain't getting in, you ain't going, period. And I think that context needs to be said in this matter.
Okay, so in this matter, meaning that
it's about to get worse.
People are rushing there to try to save lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so apparently that's first of all, she's not correct. It's not an whites only church camp.
If she could prove that, that's a lawsuit right there.
Oh, my goodness.
You can't have exclusionary things like that.
Right. But she says it's important to remember that in this context, the context of people saying, oh my God, over 100 people have been killed by a natural disaster. But it's important to remember these are whites. So I don't know what she's most offended by, that there are white people there, that there are conservative people there, or that there are Christian people there. I'm not sure which part of that makes her the angriest. So she goes on to say this, and this is where you see the critical theory ideology coming into fruition in somebody's real life. That's what that's what produces this.
It's not to say that we don't want the girls to be found, whatever girls that are missing or whatever right now, but you best believe, especially in today's political climate, if this were a group of Hispanic girls, especially with them being in East Texas, it should be most likely Hispanic. If this were a group of Hispanic girls out there, this would not be getting this type of coverage that they're getting. No one would give a fuck. And all these white people, the parents of these little girls, would be saying things like they need to be deported. They shouldn't have been here in the first place, and yada, yada, yada. So before y'all come at me, before y'all start leaving hate comments on my page about, oh, these are just kids and they don't know no better. Da, 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 da.
Okay, by the way, notice that she doesn't want hate comments. The overriding ideological driven absolute hatred. She doesn't want hate comments directed at her while she's delivering a hate comment filled monologue.
That is the perfect representation for these types of people.
Yeah.
And this ideology. And I feel, do we have more to listen to?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it's going to get worse.
It does. It gets worse. It gets worse.
The parents of these children who are choosing, and it is a choice in 2025, it is definitely a freaking choice to go into East goddamn Texas and to make a all-white enclave exclusionary just for white people, with all the black people in East Texas, with all the Hispanic people in East Texas. Somehow, some way, you have carved out an all-white, whites-only enclave in East Texas for your white children. Yeah, I have a problem with that. I have a big problem with that.
Okay, so here's the thing is I've been around the types of people who send their kids to church camps.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know these people pretty well. Frankly, I sent my children to church camps. They wanted to go. They easily have a massive lawsuit that is easily winnable with her saying whites only enclave. Okay. Yeah. Generally speaking, the people are going to be too kind and too nice and prioritize too well to bother with somebody like this. But this goes back to people feeling so confident in being able to spew this kind of hatred. Other people around Texas, around the country, we're worried about finding any survivors left. We don't care what they believe or what their skin color is. She wants that to be part of the context we have to remember while we're worried about people being killed.
I need Gabe to come back here and talk to her, because anything I say is not going to be nice, because I grew up around people that have this exact mentality.
Yeah.
And they are the most toxic, self-righteous, hypocritical. I mean, yeah, it's
we talk about the critical theories the critical gender theory, the critical race theory, the critical Marxist theory. We talk about these critical theories and we talk about them as sort of an abstract argument in the education setting, in the classroom setting. This is what happens when you embed that in people's lives. This is the type of person that you get when you don't challenge it and stop it at the K through 12 or the university level. This is what you get.
Toxic tolerance.
Yeah, precisely. So here's the last little bit of Sade Perkins' monologue, which, by the way, you'll be shocked to know she's taken her social media offline and gone private.
Good.
Imagine that.
Once again, this is no shade to the girls. I hope they all get found. But once again, y'all have to understand the climate that we're living in. They want you to have sympathy for these people. They want you to get out of your bed and to come out of your home and to go find these people and to donate your money to go find these people.
Okay, yes, I'm asking for people to have sympathy for children who were caught up and swept away by a natural disaster flash flood. Yes, I'm asking for people to have sympathy on that.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, they are deporting your family members. Meanwhile, they're setting up concentration camps and prisons for your family members. And I need y'all to keep that in mind before y'all get out there and put on your rain boots and go find these little girls.
Okay, so in addition to just being factually wrong about all of these things, the overriding, all that matters is my politics and my ideological drivel. All that supersedes basic humanity. She's the example of what happens when far leftist thinking completely infects and rots your soul.
I'm going to take a step further as well. She is the reason why calling white people racist no longer has any meaning or value.
Nobody cares. Yeah.
Because people like this view the world that way, and that's why we're actually seeing more legitimate racist and hate groups starting to rise back up because they're tired of that.
Yeah, and so this woman. She was on some appointed commission, like Food Insecurity Advisory Board. The mayor is like, we didn't even notice that her term expired and that she kept on. We're going to get rid of her, but that's all they can do. They're like, we're not going to reappoint her. We'll appoint somebody else out there. And at that point, try to remove her from the public eye. So there's headlines like she's been fired. I don't know what she does for a living. The mayor's like, yeah, we don't want somebody like that on our board, but we're just going to appoint somebody else. So it's not as big of a deal, as far as being canceled or whatever, but this is somebody, I don't know what she does for a living. She should not have a source of income after this.
Absolutely not. No, not even no.
Yeah. And I think that there are consequences for this mindset.
Going back real quick to Hurricane Helene, when they were saying, skip over the houses of people with Trump signs.
Summer in St. Louis means one thing: Cardinals baseball. It's more than a game. It's an STL tradition. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, the boom of the fireworks. It's the soundtrack to summer for Cardinals Nation. So grab your cap and